Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whimsically Wicked, a reading duet. My name is Haley, and I am the whimsical half.
My name is Darius, and I'm the wicked half.
And you're sitting in an absolutely ridiculous spot.
I sure am.
If you are watching on YouTube, Daria is, we're going to do a little box unhauling really quickly. This is a Zodiac Academy recap. We will be doing that. We are starting on book 3 today. But first, Daria has been receiving so many packages as of late, and she's got a lot of really good books in there. So we're
Yeah.
going to do an unhaul quick. If you're uninterested in this part, just skip ahead and go to the Zodiac Academy. But she gets a lot of really pretty books, and so I would recommend you heading over to our YouTube channel to watch this part, and then we'll get into Zodiac.
Yeah, we'll take the Zodiac in case you're like, wow, I really don't care what this chick has for books. In my defense, I don't think we've actually unhauled in like 3 months.
You have a problem.
Yeah, I
Defend all you want.
but this isn't just like 2 weeks worth or 1 month. I think the last time we I actually picked up books and put them on the shelf was March.
Okay.
And it is close to the end of May.
Okay. Well, let's see them.
Okay. My Mystic box just arrived. This is my first Mystic box. And if you're anyone who's ever tried to get Mystic box, I was on the wait list for like 18 months. So I have no idea what this is. I don't care. I just wanted that subscription. They're also really pretty. I'm not going to open them because I don't have a knife, but
This is not sponsored. She waited a long time to get
so
on this
long.
list.
I talk about it constantly. On the thread of Mystic box, Arcane Society. These ones I actually do know and I have wanted to read.
I've actually heard about that series. I've never read it though.
Yeah, it's the
They're
Witch
pretty
Collector
books.
and City of Ruin.
All of these have really nice sprayed edges too.
Yeah, they're stunning.
Yeah.
Alright, there's 4
Did
books.
you say Arcane Society?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them. You
Yeah.
keep bringing out books. I want to look at them.
Arcane Society is up there somewhere. There's a whole collection. Um, Still on the book subscription box train. I have, these ones are still wrapped. The Midnight Bookshelf, which I'll admit, I canceled the subscription. Just because they were a little pricey, but I do appreciate the fact that this is a Canadian one.
What subscription is this?
The Midnight Bookshelf. I apologize for
Ooh.
the crinkling.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Oh, yeah, you can. It's like a nice little...
Yeah.
These are pretty.
These are pretty.
Got like a metallic lettering.
And they're like
okay,
soft
I
covers.
just gotta stop. I love art and books. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well on this camera. There's like a little pew-pew there. But I love art and books.
Yeah.
Can't get enough of it.
Twisted City Duet by Rhea Wilde is stunning. If you are Canadian, you want to support a Canadian book box, this is it. The other 2 are American.
Sorry, what's it called again?
The Midnight Bookshelf.
The Midnight Bookshelf.
We'll stick with them. Again, it's been a couple months since we've done this. Ooh. Also, A+ packaging from them too. Their books always arrive beautiful. Oh, I know what series this is. Okay, there's one.
Louisiana Made Men. Is that the series?
Yeah.
Ooh, more pretty art and books. We
Yeah.
support this.
They're also signed by the author.
Ooh.
These are also really cute. This is another series I've been meaning to read. It's on my TBR, but it's Daffodil and Driftwood.
Dude, you're not gonna have room for all of these.
How do you even...
I suggested the other day a book unhaul to Daria, and her eyes glared. Could have cut diamonds.
Feral. That's never happening.
Apparently that's never happening.
Okay, now we're on to Amazon purchases.
I just did a book unhaul, and it felt so good. And so I tried to suggest it, and...
No. I bought a house so that I could build a library in it.
So true.
There will be more shelves in here if I run out of space.
Okay.
Is the solution. The latest, Danielle L. Jensen, The Twisted Throne from her Bridge Kingdom series. These are stunning. I own all of the paperbacks for them. They're very pretty. Love that series.
Ooh, it is pretty.
A little controversial, but I have the other 2, so I also have Fearless.
I
am behind 2 books on this one.
I've never read that series and I hate it.
I liked Powerless. It's YA. I don't know if you're going into that after reading adult
See, here's the
fantasy.
reason I'm not reading it though, is because it would be one of those things that would piss me off so much, but I already know that it's going to. Like, I would
Yeah.
go into it knowing I'm gonna hate it, and then I would complain about it, and I'm trying to be better about that.
Yeah, like I wouldn't suggest it for you because it's like YA romance.
Yeah, we
Um,
know how I would feel about it. We know how I would feel
okay.
about the writing, and I'm trying to be better and more positive about the things that I read.
We'll stick with our Danielle L. Jensen train. Of course, carved in bone. Very excited. Very shiny edges.
Interesting.
Um, Also shout out Alberta girl. She lives in Calgary.
Ooh.
Okay.
Danielle L. Jensen, shout out to you. Home turf.
Yeah. Um, this one was a mistake. Well, not this one. We're doing CRJ next. So we have the wrong quarterback with the sprayed edges. I got that one because I love her hockey romances.
Okay, so this is football now?
Yeah. Um, but then I accidentally bought two of these. I don't know how that happened. Uh, but there's two. So I have two of the Pucking Wrong rookie. This is her series that
We
I
could
love
do
the
a giveaway.
most. We could do a giveaway. If you want one of these? We'll figure something out. Um, I do have beef with her though because this one she switched to traditional publishing after the rest of the series had been published. So this doesn't match the
Oh
other
no.
4 books in the series, of which I hunted across. I didn't do eBay, but I did like so many different sellers internationally to get all of mine in the original series in that independent cover. So I'm really sad that these came in this cover.
Well, I'm sorry for that. Oh, this is the Pucking series.
Yeah, this is the one with the little special something to do for their lady with their Johnson.
Yeah, my issue is that I just don't know. Like, there's just so many hockey romances that have um pun on puck and pucking, and I don't know which ones they're all.
Yeah, if you got something, you got a good thing going. Why stop?
Sure.
Okay, this series and I also have beef, and it has nothing to do with the author or the books themselves, but the amount of money I had to pay in duties because whoever shipped these put in the duty information the actual price of each individual book, which was like $50. You can put 18, no one will notice. So $200 in duties on my like $500 book purchase later. I have all 10 of Stephanie Holmes' Nevermore Bookshop series. And these are all beautiful.
They are pretty.
Stunning. Uh yeah. But there's 10 of these that I have to find a home for on the
I'm
shelves.
getting overwhelmed with the number of books that are over here.
Yeah, I know. I tell you, that's why we had to do a book on haul.
Yeah, we did needed to do a book haul because this is ridiculous. This is more ridiculous than I thought it was.
There's so many.
There were so many. Oh, well, congratulations for all your books. Now you can try and find room in here for them.
Yeah, the next time we film, maybe we will have a new backdrop.
Alrighty. Maybe throw in the comments which ones she should get into first, because there's a lot of options.
Yeah, okay.
And you can get resituated here. We are gonna start on Zodiac Academy, book number 3, The Reckoning. The comments have been so fun on all of our videos. Thank you for watching them and loving them and kind of helping us through them. There's some comments that have like helped me connect some of the dots that I was really confused about. So keep them coming. Those have been helpful. We are finally on book 3. We're going to do the first half of book 3 today because these books are getting kind of lengthy and we need to split them up. Otherwise, we're going to be here for like 6 hours.
Yeah, this one took a noticeable jump forward in size.
Yeah.
Still has normal font size though.
Thank God for that. Just wait until we get into these bigger ones. Quick book 2 recap. So at the end of book 2, Darcy and Tory had met the Celestial family. They had this like dinner party that went super chaotic. Tory and Caleb have a thing going on right now. We also watched our first pitball game that was against Starlight Academy. That ended with a whole nymph attack. So we're now at war with the nymphs. Couple things to note here. So Orion and Darcy, they finally made out at the bottom of a pool at this dinner party.
Yes.
Um, they agreed that it could never happen again, but like we're pretty on board with them being Elysian mates at this point. It's kind of like clear.
All signs are pointing in a direction.
Yes. Tory and Darius also kind of have something going on. They like clearly hate each other, but there's some draw to them. Also kind of pointing in the direction of mates. But Tori and Caleb have a relationship, and that's making Darius really jealous. So we have a bit of a love triangle there. There's also a plot of some sort in the book. It involves something happening during the lunar eclipse. Daddy Crux and Orion's mom are planning something during the lunar eclipse. And all we really know about this is that the last time he planned it, Orion's sister had died. And also there's like this mysterious dagger that Tory stole from Darius.
Talking to her.
That's talking to her, and it seems to be sentient. So there's a plot there. And now we're at war. And we're going in to book number 3, The Reckoning.
Like month 2 of school.
Literally month 2. Okay, we actually open up this book with Orion. Orion is somewhere over here. Here's Orion, and we know him and Darcy are making out at the bottom of pools, and also he's freaking out about this nymph attack. There was 12 deaths. Only 4 of those were from Zodiac Academy. The other 8 were Starlight Academy, so we don't really hear much about them. But Orion is like a professor at the school, so he kind of has to figure out how to deal with it. So he's headed back to Asteroid Place, which is where the teachers are housed, and he just finds Washer on a deck chair, like near a pool that's in this little community of teachers, just drinking vodka. They share some. Washer is like, I tried to tell Nova. He tried to tell her that something bad was going to happen, and nobody believed him. And once again, we're kind of like, yeah, well, you're not super reliable.
Yeah, like Washer could tell me what my lunch would be, and I would still not believe him.
Exactly. And then Washer also like offers Orion to take away some of his like stress and anxiety, and Orion says no. But he still like drinks a little bit.
That's an awful lot of consent from Washer.
I know, right?
Is that growth?
No, trust me, there's some things that come up here. No, great thought though. They also discuss how the Vega twins were a really large part of the reason that there's not more casualties, but Orion still doesn't really have a clear idea of what their order could be. There is an emergency assembly at midnight, so he like walks away from his conversation with Washer, thinking about how he probably should have fed from Darcy since like he has no magic left, but he also is like kind of fighting the overwhelming urge to just go and be with her. He doesn't really care about the magic at this point, he just wants to be with her. So when he gets home, he just like chugs a lot of alcohol and falls asleep before the assembly, like a responsible teacher. So he wakes up to his atlas pinging and someone pounding on the door. So immediately he's like, oh my god, am I late? Which is super in line with Orion. But when he actually looks at his phone, there's still 15 minutes to the assembly. So he's like, who's here? And Francesca shows up. And Francesca is our Cyclops FIB agent, who is also sort of his girl. They were sleeping together. They were kind of together all the time. And so Francesca comes in and she's like, I need to see all of your memories from this nymph attack so that I can figure out what happened. And he's like, bro, I'm exhausted. I'm running on fumes. Like, I can't do this right now. And she also seems really concerned about him. So we learn that the two of them are Nebula allies. They're basically like the best friends that friends could ever be in this world. They were both in the air house during school. She tips him off when there's nymph attacks because she's aware that he's kind of trying to fight the nymphs. So there's like some mutual trust with that. And she also ends up telling him to make sure he like tops up on his magic. She's showing concern for him. But then like, hey, I'm also going to wait for you at this apartment for after the assembly. Top up on your magic. I need to see your memories. And this gets a little bit weird because he immediately says no, which is kind of unusual for them. Normally, Francesca would just be like, cool at the apartment.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would like sleep together, but he's like, I don't want you in my apartment. And she like kind of seems fine about this. She doesn't take it personally. But she does end up giving him a top up on blood before he goes. And he actually ends up being only 5 minutes late for the
Wow!
assembly. So,
Kudos to Lance.
yeah. So he gets to the orb. He notices Baloo first, which is his nickname for Darcy.
Still no first name.
Still no first name. He said it once, and then he was like, "Ooh, no, we can't do first names. Not right now." Um, and he's like wondering what's going on with that fire that they conjured at the nymph attack. They created this like red and blue fire that was super powerful, and he's like, "What's that?" Also, they definitely pose a threat to the throne now that they've proven their power. Obviously concerning. And he also like comes to this decision that no matter what strange connection they have, it cannot stand in the way of Darius being on the Celestial Council and unseating his father. That needs to be number one priority. Now, he also sees Diego put his arm around Darcy, and that makes him very, very jealous. Then we go over to the heirs. The heirs, Seth is really sad. One of his pack members, Ashanti, had died in the nymph attack, and the pack, like, very much mourns loudly when they lose a pack member. They're
Yeah.
very, very sad right now. Nova definitely gives her speech, deeply saddened by the losses. However, we're still Faye. We're going to be continuing classes tomorrow. You are expected to be there. Freshman is going to be preparing for the reckoning this week. But also, we're on lockdown, so curfew starts at 9. That's the precautions that we are going to be taking here. Also, if you're out past 9 p.m., that is 250 house points from your house and detention.
Again, we have no idea what the house points represent, what the repercussions of not having any are.
We also know that these students are not motivated by any of these things.
I also haven't seen anyone earn house points.
Yeah, I feel like it's been like 5 or 10 here and there when somebody answers a question in class, and then it's like 50 away. Like, all of these houses have to be at negatives.
Yeah. On Orion's deductions alone.
Genuinely. So Orion, he meets Darcy's eyes. Everything stops in his life. He's like, "Oh my God, woman!" And then when he's able to finally get his shit together, he realizes that the curfew issue actually poses a problem for Darius and Orion because Darius needs to do his training, which we don't really know what that is right now. So him and Darius like meet up after the assembly, and they like go into their own little office to try and talk about this. Darius makes a comment about how he still doesn't have his own draining dagger to practice with. So we're assuming that that draining dagger means that that is the one that Tory stole. So now we get some lore into the dagger. We actually don't know what it does, but we know that it's a draining dagger. And Orion kind of like asks about this situation with Milton because Milton presumably is the one who took it because Tory framed Milton. And so Darius explains that he like can't really bring a lot of attention to the dagger. He can't just like ask him about it because it's dangerous and he's not supposed to have it. And also he's like, Milton probably doesn't know what it is. Like, he might end up cutting himself, which is oddly specific. Like, why would you end up cutting yourself? So this kind of leads Darius to share that, like, he would fuck up his whole life if he did that. And as they have this conversation, they get tense knowing that they could both lose everything if they got caught with what they're doing, especially if the FIB got their hands on that dagger. So everything is quiet. They do kind of quietly agree, like, we knew that we were getting into this, but we don't really know what that means. We just know that it's dangerous and they're not supposed to be doing it, and Milton might be too stupid to have this dagger.
Milton's definitely too stupid to have his dagger.
But what we do know is that Milton doesn't have the dagger. Tory does, and while Tory maybe isn't too stupid to have the dagger, she's definitely too ignorant to have it.
And reckless.
Yeah. Now, Francesca, we know that they have this trust, so you would think, like, Francesca might be okay with him having this dagger, but she doesn't know about this. They only know about the fact that, like, they're tracking nymphs, not about these other hobbies that, once again, we don't know what they are. Um, and as they're talking about this, they hear, like, a crunch outside. They hear something outside. They do have a silencing charm, but he's like, Orion's like, I don't think that the FIB is being fully transparent about what is going on with the investigation and things like that. Like, they don't trust the FIB fully. So some things are happening there. And once Orion goes out to, like, see who it was that was out there, they kind of posed a scene that explained why Darius was there. So he's like, Darius is freaking out that I think, like, he was upset and acting out at the assembly or something like that. So Orion just gives him detention, giving them time to practice at that detention. The FIB agent is, like, walking around. He's like, oh my god, I wouldn't want your job. You're just dealing with children all the time. And then the agent also is like, hey, also, you look really young. Like, how did you pull off a job at the most prestigious school in Solaria only 4 years out of school? And Orion's like, straight A's, brother. And then in his head, he's also like, nepotism. I needed to be close to Darius, and Daddy O'Crux got me this job. But to the FIB agent, he's just like, straight A's. Yeah.
Oh. Man, imagine if that's all it took.
Yeah. So then the FIB agent's like, okay, well, it must be really easy for you to make friends at this school. And it's really odd that you pulled Darius all the way out here to have a chat with him. And so Orion's like, oh, he's suspicious of me. And so he brings out his Francesca card. And he was like, hey, well, my girlfriend probably wouldn't love that, you know, you're, like, here investigating me. And this scares the agent for some reason. He's like, oh my god, you're dating Francesca? And Orion's like, yep. And then he leaves. So he's pulling that card. With that problem solved, he is worrying about much bigger ones. The Vega twins' orders are about to emerge. They're a threat. And also, the lunar eclipse coincides with the reckoning. The Zodiac Academy is calling this Hell Week. Shit's about to go down. Now, you would think that with Hell Week coming up, everybody would be super responsible, go to bed early, be responsible. That's not going to happen.
Study.
Yeah, that's definitely not going to be happening. So we're going to Tory for chapter 2. So Tory and Darcy are actually sleeping in Tory's room. They wanted to be together after the nymph attack, but Darcy starts waking up to this, like, metal gong. They're Atlas's ding, and they get a welcome to Hell Week text. It says, you and the rest of the freshman class are now formally beginning the week leading up to the reckoning. During this week, you must pass the trials of your elements before taking part in the final assessment, which will determine whether you are worth your place at our prestigious academy. To make sure that you are thoroughly challenged, the rest of the student body will be throwing further tests your way at every turn and making your lives hell. Will you make the cut for this year's official enrollment? It's time to prove how fey you are. Yours, Principal Nova. What a text to get from your principal.
Just, we'll be trying our best to make sure you don't want to be here.
Oh my god.
And
so immediately after that, they hear fresh meat from a girl in the corridor. Hell Week is upon you. You have 15 minutes to get yourselves ready for class and get out of your rooms. Anyone who doesn't appear voluntarily will be dragged out. You have been warned. Tory, she gets a text from Caleb being like, I think we need to draw a few lines in the sand. Basically referencing that they need to keep the two sides of their relationship separate when it comes to Hell Week. Being like, yeah, I'm going to do awful stuff to you, but also, like, we can still bang.
Yeah.
Like, that's the situation.
Still want his blood. Still
she
wants
just
his
responds, like, we don't have a relationship. And she says she's done with him to Darcy. Especially after he, like, threw her in a pit last week and they got in this huge fight because the girls decided that they wanted to take their throne. So she's like, I'm done with him. And Darcy's like, it doesn't seem like it. And Tory's like, well, he's hot. What do you expect me to do? So then Caleb sends her a bunch of dirty texts, and they just, like, he's just like, can we just agree to disagree on the throne of Solaria? And she's like, okay. And then he just sends her a shirtless pic of him fresh out of the shower, and Tori's like, oh, why does he have to be such an asshole? And then Darcy's like, well, if he wasn't an asshole, you wouldn't like him.
Yeah,
And
you
she's
wouldn't
like,
be into this.
yeah, that's probably true. So they leave the room at the 15-minute mark. They put that air shield around them because that's the only magic that they know how to do and control at the moment. So they put their air shield around them, and they find nothing. But they do land at the foot of the stairs to the common room, and it's just full of students in like long black cloaks and white masks. It's very Death Eater vibes. So she recognizes Marguerite's flaming red hair as she cries out, fresh meat, while lunging at them. So Tory tries to throw more energy into shield. She actually like does too much, and the air magic just slams outwards to the students and knocks them all down. With that being said, Marguerite then coerces them into stopping and not going anywhere because they were putting so much energy into their air shields, they forgot about the coercion. So then she does it again and tells them not to move. Then they write something across their faces, and then they coerce her again into going to the orb. And, like, at some point between these three coercings, you probably could have put a shield up.
Yeah, you probably could stop that.
Maybe the first one not, but then, like, after that, put your shield up.
Because they've proven they can stop it.
Yeah. So they just didn't, and now they have, like, things written on their forehead, and they're off to the orb. So Darcy's says, just talk to my raven, because if you remember, the Celestial Times is spreading a rumor that Darcy has a fake raven that she talks to, and Tori's just says whore, and she's definitely not helping her case with that one. But it's stuck on magically, so they can't get it off, and then Sophia comes over and she's like, oh, I know how to take it off, and then she does, and that whole storyline ends. But the Terra House Juniors are tying the freshmen to the spire of Neptune Tower with vines, so Sophia's, like, not getting involved in that. And Tory and Darcy are like, hey, Sophia, did your mom not tell you about this week? Like, what is going on? And Sophia's like, no, but I called her and she just started laughing at me. Okay, great. They hear the term fresh meat, which just seems to be like a battle cry to all the other ones to, like, go and get them. And so they start to run again. They end up escaping on Sophia's back as a Pegasus. Everything's fine. Okay, chapter 3 on Darcy's perspective. We're now going to Cardinal Magic.
Yes.
With Orion.
Her favorite class.
Yeah. Tyler Corbin was running a little bit late, but that's fine because Orion wasn't there yet. Kylie is crying in the corner because Lily Jessup, who we've never met before, ended up passing away during the nymph attack. And Darcy, like, doesn't remember her ever talking to Kylie. Like, they were never friends, and Kylie just seems to be, like, drawing the attention to herself. But they, like, gave her a little memorial on her desk, and, like, it was sweet. And as everyone's talking, they all get this notification on their atlas that the Zodiac Academy had been mentioned in the Celestial Times again about the attack on the Academy. I'm not reading this all, it's really long, but the summary is that Zodiac Academy is continuing its usual with the Reckoning. This is a positive to the Celestial Times. They're being good fae.
Yeah.
But they do expect higher rates of dropout because of the situation. However, those that do get through it are just going to be celebrated more. The second is a quote from Marguerite about their red and blue fire and how it was rogue and dangerous. It was probably responsible for some of the Academy's death. It was clumsy, and they should probably get a psychological exam before being allowed to proceed through the Reckoning. So Marguerite's just trash-talking them and, like, totally lying about the fire that they summoned. Also, a statement from Darius saying it would be helpful, very diplomatically, it would be helpful if they renounced the throne. They can't be on the throne while we're in such disarray in our country. And he's got a point. Listen, I don't think that Tory and Darcy should be the queens of Solaria.
No. Current state, they are not capable of doing that, going to war, protecting people, and being Fae.
With that being said, the people who are currently on the throne also probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
We should probably get some democracy happening here, but
Start fresh.
that feels like a bit of a stretch from where they are now. It also contains a question on why, if Tory and Darcy plan on taking the throne, why they haven't done anything like sharing their political views, sharing how they're going to be handling a war, sharing what benefits they're going to get with them being on the throne. Like, why aren't they politically campaigning?
Yeah, you would at least try to get the public on your side.
And like, once again, that's super fair because Tory and Darcy are also at the point where like they don't really want the throne, but they want to take it from the heirs. Like, it's all petty bullshit right now.
Yeah, it's the if I can have it, you can't have it.
Yeah, and that's just like it's bad for everybody. No, none of these people should be on the throne. Anyways, the last thing that's on there is like more rumors about Tory having a lot of sexual partners and Darcy talking to her invisible raven. They have to like really drill that down. So the whole class reads it. Tyler actually ends up coming up to them and he's like, "Thank you." He thanked them for saving his life. He says that his mom works for the Daily Solaria, presumably another news media paper, whatever. And he says he's actually gonna pass on he's gonna pass on the real story. And then he gives them this like green leaf that turns into this like deep rust color, and in gold it just says "thank you." It's just a really oddly specific way to say thank you, and I thought that it might have meant something when I read it, and like it doesn't. It's just a green leaf that they put a lot of effort into describing. All of a sudden, Orion bursts through the door. He slams it. He has a watermelon under his arm. He takes Diego's beanie that he stole last book and just puts it over the watermelon. And he's like, "Okay, Diego, if you want this back, you got to take it from me. You got to figure out how to get this back." Diego doesn't move. He's just like, "What do you want me to do? Like, I suck, so I don't know what to do." And then Orion writes on his lovely board, in capitals, bolded, underlined, "You are all bottom-feeding losers." And he follows that up with, "This is Hell Week, and you're all fucking useless." So Kylie protests and she's like, "Lily just died. I'm really broken up about my best friend who I've never spoken to before." And as she's starting to say this, Orion just starts choking her with his air magic. So then he goes to call in another student and asks the questions like, name 3 constellations in their Latin names that aren't star signs. And like, still holding Kylie without air, he's choking her and using that as motivation for the other student to answer this question. And so she's like freaking out. So she finally answered it. She said Ursa Minor, Ursa Major, and Monoceros. And then Kylie got oxygen again. And then he does this to like 4 other students. He did the same thing to Tory. He like choked her and asked Sophia, name the 7 cardinal magics that all Fae are capable of. And this is how the authors do a little lore drop about all the 7 cardinal magics that all Fae are capable of. Sophia comes in clutch, though. It's healing, coercion, levitation, summoning, illusion, divination, and atmospheric manipulation. So those are the things that every Fae can do. He continues to like bully the class, and one of the questions he poses to this class, he goes, "What is your problem?" Like just the whole class. He's like, "What's your guys' problem?" And so they all start like answering. Like Diego ends up getting it right, saying, "We suck." And Orion's like, "That's the answer I was looking for." And Sophia's like, "Okay, we suck at practical magic." And like Orion's like, "Yes, you do." And he makes a comment about how they like can't even fight off vampires from sucking their blood. And then he like shows up near Tory and he's like, "Well, some of them like being blood sucked." And Tori's like, "I think this is sexual harassment or something at school." Also before content warnings, trigger warnings for all of this. Just a heads up. If you're watching it, but it's happening. So basically this point of the lesson is that even though they haven't been taught to fight Fae off, if they're going to be true Fae, they just need to fight. No one's going to judge you if you lose. It's okay if you lose a battle, but you have to try and win. If you can't hack it, then you got to leave. And when he says that, a boy does. Like, somebody actually leaves. So Orion's, like, grumpy about this, and also, like, that kid's never coming back, whatever. So then the screen changes. The Reckoning, how to prepare for the worst week of your life. So elemental trials get held up to the week leading into the Reckoning. On Thursday, you have your air. Friday, you have water. Saturday, you have fire. And Sunday, you have earth. Then on Monday, you have the Reckoning. And spoiler alert to this first half of this book, we don't even make it to Thursday. I think we're on Monday right now.
Yeah.
So the first half of this book happens within the 3 days leading up to it. To my point, they did not prepare in a healthy manner for these air trials, any of the trials. But they all have to attend every element they hold. And so Tory and Darcy are the only ones at this school who are going to have to go through all 4 elementals before the Reckoning. The tests are meant to test their skill, but also their resilience and mettle. This is the reason that the students are instructed to make their lives difficult, so they want them to go into these elemental trials and the Reckoning angry and tired and, like, not sleeping. Like, they really want to show these people what they're made of. So then this boy who left the class comes back in, and he's like, I changed my mind, I want to be Fae. And Orion just, like, takes him out into the hall and, like, screams at him. So while he's doing that, Diego, you forgot about the hat. I know you forgot about the hat. There's a hat on a watermelon. Diego, while Orion is out of the classroom, goes up to get it. And Darcy's like, no, he'll know that you have it. Give it to me. I'll hide it. So, like, Orion's not going to know. So Orion and this kid named Elijah come back in, and he has to, like, stand up there and admit that he's pathetic and a coward and apologize for being an embarrassment to the school, Solaria, and the entire race of Fae, which kind of oddly reminds me did you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah.
You know when Holt has to, like, admit that Jake Peralta is an amazing detective / genius? This kind of gives the same vibes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And so Orion is like, Elijah, you only have one chance, but you have to stand in all of my classes from this day moving forward until you earn your seat back. Orion immediately notices that Diego's hat is not on the watermelon and assumes Darcy has it immediately. Like, their ploy or whatever did not work. He's like, no, Darcy has it. And then basically he's like, okay, 5 points from every house for every minute she keeps it. So she gets, like, totally groped by her class, and so she gives it back. Total failure. Hat is back on the watermelon. Chapter 4, back to Tory's. After Cardinal Magic, they're heading back over to the orb for lunch. And they have their air and coercion shield up, requiring a lot of concentration. They're not talking a lot. But Tory is thinking about how Orion wants them to fail in these elementals and reckonings because his allegiance to Darius. Like, he's like, Orion doesn't want us to succeed here. But, like, we kind of know that that's not really true. Geraldine calls them over, saving a seat for them, and telling them that after the nymph attack, they had over 100 new members join the Almighty Sovereign Society. They're kind of gaining followers now.
This is their politics right here. The ass.
The ass. This is their political campaign.
Yeah.
But this is big. 100 new followers after this nymph attack. There was, like, 3 of them beforehand. So
that one professor.
We increased by a lot of percentages. This does seem sort of like to be mixed feelings for Tory and Darcy, though. Like, they are tempted to challenge the heirs, but they don't really want the crown. But also, like, having people on their side is also kind of nice because they were alone before and now they're not. So there's, like, mixed feelings coming up here. Now, Diego is still upset about his hat. He's coming up with more ways to get it back. And Tory kind of snaps at him and he's like, dude, it's just a fucking hat. Like,
Chill out, man.
Chill out. And he like puts his head into his hands. He's like mumbling like, well, my abuela made it and all of this stuff. And Sophia kind of gives her a look. Darcy like kicks her under the table being like, hey, you're getting into bitch territory here. And Tori's like, dude, it's a fucking hat. Can we chill? And so Tori drinks a drink and it's Diet Coke. And she was like, oh, like, I didn't get a Diet Coke. Did anyone want a Diet Coke? And Geraldine and Angelica burst into laughter. They pranked her by giving her a Diet Coke instead of a Coke. And also, instead of regular mayo in her sandwich, they gave her half fat mayo. And Tori's like, Geraldine, how could you do this to me? And they all kind of like laugh about it. It's kind of cute. They all have fun about it. A guy comes up to Tori as they're all joking and stuff and says he has a message for her. And he says, Caleb says 2 minutes. She looks over to him. Caleb's smirking at her. He texts her and says, TikTok. This signals their 15 minutes to chase her down. This is their game that they play. So she shows Darcy and Sophia, and she ends up telling them, like, hey, we have this sex game where he chases me and bites me.
Yeah.
And it's like this whole thing. We seem to really enjoy it. And Sophia's like, I'm sorry, what? She's kind of judgmental. And Tori throws it back at him like, I'm not the one sobbing over a knitted hat. Because, like, Diego gets all judgmental and, like, all of these things. And so they're kind of, like, fighting right now, I guess. I don't really know. Something's going on.
Yeah, they're at their wits' end, and Hell Week hasn't even really started.
Yeah, right? Whatever. Darcy says there's only 10 minutes till class, so, like, Darcy needs to cover for her. And Tori runs out. She sees all 4 heirs looking her way. Seth and Max seem, like, interested. They're like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, that they are doing this. Darius looks pissed. Darius looks mad. They haven't spoken since the nymph attack where they had that, like, moment where he almost died and she was, like, gonna do everything to save her. And then he then threw her in a pit and they fought about this. Like, there's complicated feelings here. Darius looks pissed. So anyways, Caleb chases her into the library. He catches her in like 5 minutes. So he like takes her blood. And he kind of like does a lot this time. He was like super running on empty. He really needed, because he hadn't drank from her since the nymph fight, which was last night. But to be fair, like he was fighting hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he didn't want to bite anybody else. He's like going exclusive here. She's like, we're on the opposite sides. You're a dick. And he's like, well, I can't be anything else. This is like what you get. We are literally enemies. We are on the opposite side of this. And she's kind of like, well, like, I didn't choose that. I'm just here. I've been here
This
for like 3
conflict
weeks.
only exists because of them, realistically.
But in his defense, he loves the thrill of chasing her and playing this game. And she justifies the situation like, yes, he's a dick, but at least he's not lying about being a dick. He's honest about being a dick. And that feels like a step up from the previous boys she's dated. And also, she likes the game too. She does have to go because of class, and he's like, hey, come to House Terra tonight. And she's like, no. And then he asks her if he gets her to class on time, if she'll go. And she says, I'll consider it. He takes her to class. He's like, I expect you tonight. And she was like, I only considered it. And now it's this like weird, awkward situation. Caleb seems to be really into Tory.
Mm-hmm.
And Tory seems
Nothing.
intrigued. Like, she's very attracted to him.
Yeah.
But that kind of seems like all she wants.
It seems like his dickishness shaves off the possibility of more than fun hunting.
Yeah. She does change into her fireproof outfit, and she, like, kind of plucks at the material irritably, and this line just kind of made me think, like, because the material, or the theory is that it makes it harder for them to control their fire magic. And obviously their order has something to do with fire, right? Mm-hmm. It's a dragon, it's a phoenix, it's like, it's got to be something to do with fire. It makes me think that, like, the material has something to do, like, maybe their order really hates this material. Maybe it, like, drains their power or something. It's starting to make me think that this material is, like, problematic to their order. But we still don't really know what that is, and we don't know what the material is either. So the fire magic, obviously, like, that lesson goes really badly. The fire outfit's making it weird. Pyro doesn't believe her. She has to keep it on. But then Darius pops in and is like, hey, it's actually been going better in our liaison, because remember, he was like her tutor. Well, Pyro's the tutor. Uh, Darius is just like his, like, he's like supporting her with.
Yeah, the weird,
Yeah.
like, behind the
Right.
back magic merging
Yeah.
strange golf swing teaching.
Yeah. So Darius is like, no, during our lessons, it's actually been going better without it on. So Pyro allows Tory and Darius to team up, and then Caleb and Darcy, which, like, super awkward pair. Darius gives Tory a little bit of advice here. He's like, hey, why don't you stop asking Pyro if it's okay? Faye just take what they want. Just stop wearing it.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't know if I can do that. And she's still, like, not super confident about it. But they do end up power sharing again to control the magic while she has the fire suit on. It's a very intimate experience again. And now Caleb is jealous. And both of the girls are, like, miserable at this point. Tori hates how good sharing the magic with Darius feels. Caleb is jealous of Tori, and Darcy's like, I don't want to do this.
Darcy's like, I don't want to be here for this weird love triangle. Thank
Right.
you very much.
As they're practicing, bikes come up again. Darius and Tori are talking about bikes. Darius says he's really good at racing, which is a challenge that she can't turn down. He wants to race her, so they agree to race. If Tori wins, she gets to keep the bike, and Darius doesn't yet know what he wants, but he thinks of, like, says he'll think about something, and she's like, whatever you want. I don't care. I'm winning. I'm really good at this. You don't know anything about bikes. Like, she's very confident in this. So Darius confirms their date for Wednesday night, which is the night before their air elemental trials start. So as they're finishing up that lesson, they, like, see Caleb and Darcy. They did not manage to power share at all. You need to trust each other and, like, have some sort of chemistry a little bit, it seems, to power share. Like, power sharing is an intimate experience.
Yeah, there's got to be some little something extra in that relationship for
And
that to work.
Caleb and Darcy have no sexual tension.
None.
Like, there's nothing. It's just awkward. Okay, chapter 5, we're going back to Darcy. She is now heading to her liaison session with Orion. This is, like, the first time that they're hanging out alone after the nymph attack and after they made out. Like, this is crazy. And she's kind of thinking, like, maybe I should just get a new one. It would make everything a whole lot easier. I can't be around this man. So she shows up really early because she's trying to avoid all of the pranks, and oddly enough, Lance also shows up early in, like, this beautiful suit.
Ugh. You just know he's hot.
You just know he's hot. She like almost calls him Lance. She was like, "La, sir," and he was like, "Didn't know you spoke French," and she's like, "Haha," and it's just weird. She does suggest a new liaison, and he goes, "No, that won't be necessary. Come in." And that conversation is over. He doesn't explain it at all. So he moves on immediately. He shares that he believes Tory and Darcy are gonna be dragons, but a rare and thought to be extinct species of dragons. They're called an Ismenian dragon. It was the largest of the dragon orders, and the fire was 3 times the strength of its smaller cousins, which 3 times is a very specific metric, and this got me thinking about, like, the studies that they must have to do in Zodiac Academy to measure, like, 3 times the strength of a different dragon.
Yeah.
Interesting. They were usually the darkest blue in color, had a forked tongue, poisonous breath, and could kill a fae up to 50 feet away. Once again, very specific metric that would require studies of how far you would have to be to kill a person.
You know they did it too.
Oh, for sure they did.
They probably had a bunch of people and were like, run. And then just measured how far they got before they keeled
Genuinely. So Orion says that they could be as much as double the size of a regular dragon. And that kind of, like, freaks them out a little bit. Like, imagine, like, you're just a girl and you're told that you can turn into the most powerful creature in the world.
That's house
That
size.
would be a really weird experience.
Yeah.
Anyways, this continues to be like super awkward. He tries to avoid the conversation and like about the two of them, and he gets her to read about dragons, and she does kind of bask in the idea of being bigger than Darius. But it's like kind of still weird for her too. Eventually, Orion clearly decides that this whole situation is like weird. They have forever left of this liaison session. And so he's like, well, why don't we go for a walk in the forest alone? That will really help the sexual tension of this situation. Let's go
Go
walk in a forest alone.
into the
at
Wailing
night.
Wood, our favorite place.
Yeah, so it's to try out her fire again. She's going to practice so that they can see if they can get some progress on this order. Orion sort of explains that elemental power is different to their order power, and so she should feel it in a different place in their body. So, like, my water fire comes from a part of my body, but, like, my vampire power would be coming from a different one. Or in my case, apparently a Tiberian rat, as Daria would think.
You're welcome.
Oh my god, I like my griffin better. So she's kind of like starts thinking that she can feel it, but it's not awake. And he asks her what she was feeling before when she ended up using it, and she just said like I was afraid. And Orion's like, "Great, I can do that. I can make you afraid." So in true Orion fashion, he tries to scare the shit out of her. He like launches her in the sky with his power, and that doesn't end up working. So they just start this fight between the two of them, and it's an elemental fight mostly because when Darcy tried to like hit him, he was like, "No physical touching. I can't handle that. I love you."
At least he has boundaries.
Yeah. He's like, "I love you too much to graze your skin." That doesn't really last long. They kind of end up in a position where physical touch is involved. Darcy gets hurt. He touches her to heal her. She tries to knock him down afterwards, but he's too fast. He ends up pinning her down, and they have like a moment, and then she realizes the risks are too high. This man could lose his job and be power shamed, and she might get kicked out of the academy because the only rule that exists in this fucking book,
don't fuck your teacher.
Don't fuck your teacher. He's like, I owe you my life. And then he gets angry about the lies the media is spreading about her. And this gets weird because she's like, no, this is good for you. Like, aren't I supposed to look bad? And then he's like, yes, I'm mad about it. Like, he just kind of goes back into broody Orion, and he was like, wait, yes, I'm supposed to be mad about this. Cranky boy. And then eventually she gets him off of her, because remember, he is on top of her right now. And she says again, hey, I need to get a new liaison. This needs to stop. He nods. She leaves. 3 seconds passes. She gets a text from him and says, what if I don't want to stop? Okay.
One rule.
One rule. The only rule. You can kill people, but if you fuck your teacher, you're getting power shamed.
And you're out.
Oh my god.
But the teacher's out, not you.
Yeah, you're
not the
still
other
getting in
consenting
trouble.
adult.
Yeah, it does seem that they still get in trouble.
Yeah.
But like not as much. He's the one getting power shamed.
Yeah.
Which we still don't really know what it means. We kind of saw, I guess, like a version of it with Milton when Darius was like,
oh yeah, they like ignored his existence.
Yeah, so maybe that, I don't know. Chapter 6, Seth. We're in Seth's body. Now remember, Seth still has fleas.
Oh, Seth, baby.
Yeah. So Seth is in the locker room at the Lunar Leisure Center and thinking about Ashanti. He's just like, he's doing a lot of whimpering at random times, lots of whimpering. He like literally actually seems like he's in significant pain. It seems to be a werewolf trait, especially him being the alpha and this being one of his omegas. So he's about to get flea dipped to get rid of the flea. It's like a mint white cream that they have to go and swim in. He's humiliated that he has to. He hasn't gotten it done since he was 8 when he had first emerged as his werewolf, and apparently werewolves' orders emerge like younger than any other one. So he seemed to be first emerged as a wolf when he was like 5, and then he got dipped when he was 8. Prestos is telling him to get into the white creamy potion for 15 minutes while in his order form. And he thinks about how, like, the other wolves haven't slept in his room since he got fleas. And that was like, and then he starts thinking about that being the same night as Darcy showed up in his room. And I'm like, how are you not putting this together? You still don't know that she's the one who gave you fleas?
He's a pretty boy, not a smart boy.
But, like, all 4 of the heirs, it happened at the same time, and Darcy and Tory were all around. Like, it's so obvious. And you know that they're going to find out at some point.
Yeah.
You'd think, right?
I don't remember when it would be.
And so he's thinking about Darcy and how frustrated he is that he has to initiate Darcy into the pack because he made her part of our pack. Now, shout out to the person who finally commented on our post saying that you found where he did this, because I couldn't figure out where he made her his Omega, but it was when Orion was like destroying all of Diego's stuff. Like, he took the hat and like
the box.
He destroyed the box of his Mia Bella and everything. He told Darcy that she was part of his pack now.
So that was enough.
That did happen. It did happen. Thank you. So the rest of the pack like won't spend any time with him, and that's making him a lot worse for that, especially with Ashanti being lost and everything. Like, they're a pack. They want to be close together, and they like to nuzzle. Lots of nuzzling. As soon as they're in the pool, his pack like starts ignoring him. And that kind of makes no sense, because it's like, I thought they were ignoring me because of the fleas, but now the fleas are gone. So he like barks at them, and then they snarl back. And it's like Alice, the one with the big boobs that he was screwing the other night, when he was all sad boy. So Alice snarls at him, and kind of a big deal if you're as your alpha. Like, I feel like that's kind of a disrespectful thing to do to your alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so kind of note here, when she snarls back at him, he like backs into the corner, and he's like taken back to his past. It was like vaguely the worst week of his life. He's only describing it here as like feeling snowflakes melting against his nose and it being very cold. So he kind of like goes back into like some trauma of some sort.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't come up against until so far into the series.
It comes up briefly. We do learn about it in this book. But yeah, it's just a little tidbit there.
Yeah, I swear, in like, I don't know if it's Ruthless Stars or
Oh my gosh,
Starlight, Starlight, but one of the last 2 books actually like explains this in a lot of detail.
Crazy. Okay. So she does, like, Alice eventually kind of falls behind Seth, but like she refuses to look at him, so he calls her out. He's like, "What is going on?" So apparently Frank, one of the wolves, told the rest of the pack that he made Darcy an Omega, and they're pissed about this because it's a fairly big no-no to make someone who's not a wolf into their pack. So they're all mad at him. They tell him he needs to get rid of her, and until then, they won't follow him. Huge deal for Seth. He's sad boy. He whimpers. He hates being alone. But the only banishment that can occur, like the only way he can get her out of the pack, is for her to challenge him. The challenge has to come from her. And he doesn't really want her to, because for some reason he wants her to be in the pack.
Yeah, he wants to keep her.
Yeah, he likes being her alpha. He said, like... Okay.
Kinky.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is. He does get a quick text from Max saying they're staying at King's Hollow for the evening. He's like, thank God I can't be alone tonight, so he heads over there. This situation takes a very interesting turn. So Seth gets there. Darius is just sprawled out on the rug, completely shirtless, and Seth's gaze kind of lingers over Darius's body. And he was like, oh my God, he looks like a demigod. And then I'm like, oh, where'd that come from? Okay. So Max then asks him why he smells like mint. Seth is like, because of the werewolf situation. And then he's like, oh yeah, how's your rash? Which just seems like an inappropriate question to ask somebody. But
Wait, it's Seth asking Max about his rash?
yeah,
Yeah,
from the
okay.
griffin poop.
Yeah.
And Max is like, it's good. It'll be gone in a few days. Caleb wasn't there, but he knew immediately where to find him. So he heads out to this wooden rope bridge that attaches to another treehouse. They've got lots of tree houses, kind of as if they were, 9-year-old Nancy Drew detectives, but they're not. They're adults at a school and they have tree houses. So that's fun. Anyways, it's attached to another tree. There's another little tree house. Actually, while he's doing this, he hears his pack running without him. So we get another whimper from Seth.
Just know that Seth is sad.
I could play a drinking game that, like, I could create one for Zodiac Academy, like, whenever Seth whimpers.
Take a
drink.
shot.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I would get so drunk. Just with that. So he finds Caleb in his favorite spot. It's outside this like other treehouse that had a veranda built around it, a swing bench, fairy lights along the railing and roof. It kind of seems like a vibe. Caleb is irritated right now because Tory had just shut him down about his request to stay over at Terra House and instead told him to work on his personality. So he's sad.
Georgia sad boys.
Mm-hmm. Seth basically is like, I'm not judging. I have my own Vegas situation right now. Darcy is in my back. So then they go to Facebook, sees like Maurice, another werewolf, acting as if he's a new alpha, and he like starts to have kind of like a crash out, because I know what that term means now. And he starts typing in capital letters, like, I am your alpha. If you challenge me, I will destroy you. Explanation point, explanation point. And like Caleb saves him by like taking his phone. It's like a drunk girl texting her ex and your best friend like pulling your phone away from you, being like, don't do that.
Yeah, bad idea.
Yeah. And so then we also see a very attractive picture of Caleb from last year's Rising Moon magazine, but they cropped an ice cream cone that he was holding. Why he was holding an ice cream cone on the cover of this magazine photo, I don't know, but they cropped the ice cream cone out and they instead put a big Pegasus dick in it. And mostly because I don't want it in my search history. I don't know what it looks like, but I was trying to picture it. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't it just be a horse dick?
I guess so, but it has to be sparkly and colorful.
Yeah,
Probably has glitter coming out of it, literally.
you'll get some lore on that later. I'm not going to spoil that experience for you.
I appreciate the warning. I wasn't thinking that would have to be part of this series, but of course it does.
No, there's
Oh, great.
there's a lot coming when it comes to the Pegasus and their
No pun
exploits.
intended.
The pun is intended. Trust me.
All right, so both of them kind of collectively are like, fuck them all. Caleb pats his arm, and okay. Caleb patting his arm, you would think is very innocent, but Seth kind of starts to move in towards that, and then he starts nuzzling Caleb, drink every time he nuzzles, and we know that this is a normal thing for Seth, but then he like kind of starts to feel a little bit more intense about it, like he's trying to get closer to Caleb, and then Caleb's like, Seth. And then Seth is like, remember that time in the Shimmering Springs last year? And Caleb seems to kind of react to this, in like kind of a like fondness, like he's just like, he tenses, you know what I mean? And Caleb reminds him, he's like, Seth, there were girls there. And Seth is like, yeah, that girl wasn't there the whole time. And ultimately, Caleb does, like, not want to do this. And the reason that this is of note is because when Caleb says no, Seth listens.
Yeah.
And that's kind of out of character for Seth to respect consent. So, yeah, but whatever. Caleb kind of reminds Seth, like, hey, remember your girlfriend Kylie? And while it's like, it is shitty that Seth forgot about Kylie for a second, I'm going to be so real with you. I also forgot about Kylie.
I was reading it. He said your girlfriend. I was like, wait, who was the girlfriend?
Yeah, no, it was Kylie.
I don't know that I necessarily blame Seth for forgetting about Kylie either.
Right. And so, like, we do actually get some lore here. Like, Seth and Kylie grew up together, and when Seth was coming home from school, because Kylie's a year younger than him, he would always be really, like, lonely without his pack. And so then he kind of used Kylie, and then, like, he sort of called her his girlfriend once or twice, and then it became this thing. And because Seth can't have an honest and mature conversation with somebody, he's just let it go on for this long.
Which is crazy because she only found out he was polyamorous last book.
Yeah. Now all he can think about is Darcy, and he kind of starts to ask Caleb. He's like, "Do you think Darcy would ever forgive me?" And before Caleb can answer, they do get interrupted. Max comes out, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are talking about the Vegas. That's great. We need to talk about them." Apparently, Daddy Crux thinks that the Vegas are actually a real threat now. They are, because of the fire they cast. And they're speculating that the twins might emerge as dragons, which almost causes Darius to have another one of his, like, little order tantrums where he, like, gets all mad and he just bursts as a dragon and starts running or, like, flying around and
Out of everyone
fire.
we've met, he has the least control of his order.
Yeah, like, and you... It's crazy that abusing your child doesn't work.
Wild.
Insane.
Who would have thought
Oh my god.
that didn't make them what you wanted them to be?
Anyways, he does, like, start to calm down, because Seth is like, "Hey, well, you could always marry one of them." And Darius is like, "Ooh, you know, Tory has, like, kind of dry humped me a couple times." He's clearly, like, trying to put on a front, but this is probably attractive to Darius because there's this weird connection that they have.
Also, his other option is his cousin.
Yeah.
I would take the girl I really don't like over my
100%.
cousin any day.
100%. Like, she's hot, too, and Mildred's not because she's a child of incest.
And his cousin.
Mm-hmm. All great options to not marry someone. So he just kind of says, like, well, she has tried to dry hump me a couple times. But he, like, Caleb starts to get, like, jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And it causes, like, Caleb to pause for a sec because he doesn't want Caleb doesn't want the rest of the heirs to know that he cares about him. And Darius is like, "Well, dude, you're just passing time." So Caleb's like, "Oh yeah, of course." But literally nobody buys it. Like, we're in Seth's perspective right now, and Seth is like, "Clearly you care about this person. Like, you're being exclusive with her. You're not biting anybody else. Like, you're not fooling anybody. You care about her, and, like, the four of these boys wear their hearts on their sleeves. Like,
Yeah.
they're not good at covering emotions."
They're not subtle. And at this point, the girls have, like, woven their way into all of their lives in an emotional way. Like the Max and
Right.
Tory thing, where they made out and she got to see his memories. Darcy's, Seth's, Omega.
Right.
Mostly Tory. Tory's mostly the problem for them.
Right. But, like, oh my god, there's just, like, it's so funny because it would be like, you know, Tory talks to Caleb and Darius is like, "I'm hiding it so well," when he's just across the room, like, glaring so hard at him, and fire is, like, emitting out of his body, and he's like, "I am cool and aloof."
No one could ever tell.
Yeah. So they're basically talking, and they're like, "Okay, we need to shut the Vega twins down. Like, Daddy Crux is gonna kill us before they get too powerful." And Seth and Caleb sort of look at each other and are like, "This puts us in an awkward position," because Caleb is his source. So even though he cares about Tory, but also it's his source, so, like, he can't hurt her. And now Seth also is bound by magic to not hurt her because she's her Omega. So now two of them can't hurt Tory, and also Darius is probably her mate. Like you said, this is a problem. So Seth does decide that he has to kind of disclose the situation. Like, "Hey guys, I actually can't hurt Darcy."
Yeah.
And that's kind of a problem. And now we're in that situation where none of them want to hurt them, except for maybe Max, because we don't really hear from Max ever. Like, we haven't even seen his perspective yet, and he's the only one. So Darius is like, "Okay, but, if they like emerge as dragons, like I don't think they would let me marry one. I think he'd actually want to kill them. And so they kind of like all decide, because none of them actually want to hurt them, like, oh, well, the reckoning might do it anyways. So let's just let that happen. Like, they're just kind of like, we don't want to.
Yeah, we'll just hold off.
Yeah, but they're also kind of secretly hoping that they survive the reckoning. Like, they're.
And they attempted to murder them 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago? I'll
Yeah.
give them the benefit of the doubt and call it 3 weeks.
Yeah, you know what? Quick-ish character growth, but they're never going to admit it.
No.
Their feelings are faster than their logic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're boys.
They're boys. That was meant to be an attack
Yes.
on boys. Let's just be clear.
Unequivocally.
Okay, chapter 7 is Tory. So Tory and Darcy are actually going to the Dragon and Order Enhancement class to see if they can get their orders to emerge. They do a pass at the Shimmering Springs. They don't obviously know that Caleb and Seth had a threesome orgy, something there. But they do know that, okay, guys, this is where the Shimmering Springs is, just a heads up. Sophia had mentioned that they should go swimming there. The reason that this is important, because Tori still seems nervous about this deep water, but like, you have a water elemental class, or not class, like a trial coming up right away. Tori is probably gonna have to figure out her fear for deep water.
Real fast.
Just assuming that we're probably going to be like Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, dive into the water for an hour of some sort, or like something's going to happen there.
You're going to have to be in the water, or get out of the water, or get through the water. Water.
Yeah. So, anyway, she's like, I'm going to need to sort this out. They do meet Angelica, which is Jerry's really good friend, and Angelica is also Darius's cousin, as well as Darius is there. There's also a few other dragons. It's not a ton. It's not a huge class because it is the most rare order. Darius, being broody as ever, apparently he keeps leaving the Dragon Order Zodiac Academy group chat. He's like too cool for them. But then he kind of makes the comment that Angelica, like, he's like, well, Angelica, this chat is only for all of these other dragons who want to bang you. And like, you kind of seem to bask in it a little bit. And she was just like, you just think we're too good for us. But she clearly also likes it. So it's a whole thing. They have some banter, like the girls and Darius, about how powerful dragons are. We kind of get this idea that it would take about an entire pack of wolves to take on a dragon. So that would be like pretty equal fight if it was a whole pack of werewolves and a dragon. Just so for your information on how powerful they are.
Power scaling.
Yeah. And the girls taunt him about how big they're apparently going to be. Like Darcy and Tory are like, well, we're going to be bigger than you. And then there's like the little altercation when Darius asks if we're going to ride the dragons. She's like, so what are we going to do? Like, are we just going to ride you? And Darius is like, we are not pack horses. Humans do not ride us. That is not happening. They never offer to ride people around. They're too proud for that.
Lame.
Yeah. So really all that ends up happening is they can't figure out a way to summon their fire. They can't emerge into their order. The dragons are like, you can't ride us, so bye. And they just leave. So that's their whole order enhancement class. However, as they're walking away, they're kind of thinking about how like cool it's going to be dragons, and they decide to go to the orb for food. All of a sudden, Darcy really has to pee, like really needs to pee, and she just runs off as Tori's grabbing her satchel. She just like leaves. And Max manipulated the water in Darcy's body so that he could just talk to Tori. Like, you could have just like used your words or something.
You could have been like, hey, do you mind if we have a private chat?
Yeah. Like,
you're the least intimidating of the four. They probably would have said yes.
An option. Anyways, Max tries to talk to her. He says he doesn't like being indebted to her for keeping his secret, and he didn't like this power dynamic that was going on, so he wanted to repay it so they could move on and just be enemies again. She wouldn't like take any magic from him, but he sirened into saying that she just wants to not be afraid of deep water anymore for the elemental trial. Now, Max just finished a little meeting with their little celestial heirs, being like, let's let the trials and the reckoning kill them.
Yeah.
And now he's about to help her with this situation. They don't want them dead.
No, they
At
have
all.
0 heart in this.
Yeah. So basically, he teaches her to use air and water elements to breathe underwater, which is like, I'm assuming the exact same thing that Orion used when they were down at the pool with Darcy to make out.
Oh,
Assuming
yeah.
it's the same thing.
It's the bubblehead charm?
Yes, that. So before he does that, he like opens up his mind to her to signal to her, like to feel the trust, like I'm being honest, because sirens can do that. Um, and as he's doing that, he asks if she wants to fuck Darius, and she responds with an angry and apparently lusty, according to Max, no. So he just ends up teaching her to do it. She's practicing in the water. He leaves. He texts her that they're even. They can go back to being enemies. And now she's got this tool for the water element trial. Chapter 8, Darcy. After finishing lunch up at the Orb, they head to their Earth Elemental class at the Wailing Woods. They hear like a psst behind the trees, and Tyler is hiding behind one of them and summons them over. Apparently, like they're seniors, they're causing earthquakes and everything like that. So they see like Kylie walk through it, and they decide to fly there on Tyler's back as a Pegasus. So as they're like trying to fly away, the seniors actually find them and they're trying to like grab them on the bottom. So they fight it off and they end up flying away. Tyler like ends up sending glitter towards them. So they like, I don't know, the glitter somehow magically fights off the very powerful earth vines. And whatever. So they thank Tyler for saving them from the earthquake. You know, like Kylie is coming out of it with like her hair a mess and super muddy because she got through the earthquake. And so he says thank you, or they thank Tyler, sorry. And he says, or the girls say if there's anything that he needs to let them know so that they could like repay him back for him getting him out of there. And he takes them up on that. And he says, well, actually, could you talk me up to your friend, Sophia?
Yeah.
I think she's cute.
We have a little Pegasus.
Yeah, so Darcy's about to be like, no, Diego and Sophia, who we have not heard anything about in like a book and a half.
Aware that they still even spoke.
Right. So Darcy's like about to be like, oh, I'm sorry. She's dating Diego, but Tory stops her and she's like, no, don't worry. We absolutely will talk you up. That sounds great. So as they're walking away, Tory starts to explain, like, hey, Diego's not stepping up. He's not doing anything to get this girl.
Yeah.
Sophia's getting frustrated. Why don't we actually tell Sophia that Tyler's interested in front of Diego and see, like, either Diego still doesn't step up and Sophia's with somebody who actually wants her, or it causes Diego to step up. Like, this is a win-win situation.
Yeah.
And not toxic at all.
No toxicity.
No. Yeah. I'll also add here, just to give you a visual, Tyler has frosted tips.
Yeah, we only have this version of Tyler.
Yeah, but he has frosted tips. So we actually could probably get a new picture for this because Tory is like basically saying that he looks like a boy band member. And for some reason now Seth and Caleb overhear her saying this, and so they break out into "I want it that way." And Caleb and Seth have like a little performance of their lives.
Aww.
So this is actually a musical. I don't know if you knew, but I can just picture that. It's just weird. Yeah. And so after that, Caleb talks dirty to Tory, thinking that this is going to go super well after I just imitated the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah. That's how you woo a girl.
So it doesn't really matter that he talked dirty to her, though, because he just ended up picking her up and walking away with her anyways. So this is in the Earth Elemental class. So he takes her away, and because we're in Darcy's perspective, we get the conversation between Darcy and Seth. And Seth is like, hey, can I talk to you? And she was like, no. And then he's like, please, just a minute. And she's like, whatever. So they talk about the fleas being gone. He also has like another little moment about Ashanti, more whimpering, and Darcy actually apologizes to him. I'm sorry about your friend, whatever. It's nice. Then he says he has a proposal for her. He wants her to come meet him tonight, and like kind of also threatens her with the fact that he has to initiate her before he has to like forcefully initiate her, which sounds rapey. It is.
Yeah.
That's what he's insinuating. He's like, I have to initiate you either by challenging or pleasing, and
I'm doing one of
I'm
those.
about to lose control. So we can feel all the feelings we have about that. It's not cool. That's where we're at. But like if he initiates her, then they can kick her out. He knew that she wouldn't trust him with this though. Like this doesn't seem he's not a trustworthy man. So he sends her a video on her atlas and says it's for her eyes only, but she can use it as ammo in case he fucks with her. So there's this video that he's giving her as like what's that called? I can't get the word.
Blackmail.
Yeah. She doesn't get a chance to look at it right away, so they go for dinner with the ass and Sophia and Diego. And they reveal to Sophia that Tyler Corbin is interested in him, and it turns into like this like 7th grade, like, oh my god, you have to go over there. And then like he's looking at them now. And then like she's like, no, I can't go over there, and she's blushing. And then he gets up to come over to her, and they're like, oh my god, he's coming over here. Like it's that. We've all been there.
Yeah.
When we were 12.
In middle school.
Yeah. So he ends up asking her to go out with him, and I actually had a flashback to me being in 6th grade. Okay, so this was like my first ever real boyfriend. And what had ended up happening was like I was really good friends with this like group of guys. We always like hung out, and I was like not interested in dating at all because it was just like these were like the guys that I hung out with and we were friends. But then I heard from one of my friends that one of the guys in that group, his name was Taylor, he wanted to ask me out, and so I heard it from a friend, and I was like, oh my god. And so the friend was like, you're supposed to meet him at lunch today. And then I was like, oh my god. And then I was like, wait, am I supposed to say yes to this? And then I got like all like flustered about this. So then he asked me out, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then I like went and told my friends, and then we dated for like 2 weeks. It was like the cover photo of my Facebook profile. Super embarrassing. But that's what this reminds me of.
This is exactly that.
These are adults.
Oh god.
Yeah. Anyways, so Tyler asks Sophia to go to a fair in Tucana on Sunday after his Earth trial. She says yes. Diego looks pissed, but Darcy does not feel bad. He should have already done this.
Yeah, he's had 2.5 books of ample opportunity.
Genuinely. So Jerry decides that this is celebration worthy. Brings out the alcohol. It's freaking Tuesday and like 2 days before your first elemental class. But here we go. We're bringing out alcohol. Diego suggests a drinking game, but Darcy's like, oh yeah, I gotta go meet Seth. And Tory and Sophia are like, what? But yes, I will drink. And then Jerry is apparently, she's like, you guys can't see me drunk. I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I fully believe that. Absolutely believe that.
Drunk Jerry's gotta be experienced.
So she's like, guys, it's a Tuesday. You are not going to be introduced to this person. I'm out. But Tory, Sophia, and Diego are all going to drink to Diego's drinking game. Darcy heads out to the air tower and gets ready to like go and see Seth as she gets a text from Lance. In her head, she's referring to him as Lance. And in his head, he refers to her as Blue. So he's asking again about her hair and whether she's going green or blue because this plot cannot be wrapped up.
I forgot this still.
Yeah. So he's like, you really like keeping a guy in suspense, don't you? And she's like, dude, what's the difference? Is blue or like, who cares? Whatever. And he's like, blue means you like me. And she's like, it doesn't mean anything. It used to, but it doesn't anymore. I'm past that point in my life, which like clearly we're not. But he reveals...
Oh, my line!
I know. And so Orion's like, no, Darius told me what it meant to you. But I have a different meaning for it, and so does Celeria. And he's like, also, I'm going to break that guy's legs who did that to you initially, like, with the whatever, like, because the blue hair was, like, her own bruise, because a guy told her he liked her and then slept with her and didn't talk to her again, which, like, I understand at the age of 16. This is a super traumatizing experience, but girl...
Your sister literally drowned.
It's fine. Like, you will get through this.
Yeah, the blue means you thing for whatever reason.
Yeah, so he says in his last text, in Solaria, blue means royal, and to me, blue means you.
I love it. I love that line. I don't know why. I don't know. Out of all these books, it's the only line I could quote. But blue means you, for whatever reason, is seared into my brain.
Okay. So now she's like blushing, right? And Seth comes to her door to get her. And he asks if she's watched this video yet. And I just like, I have this thing with these books where when I'm talking about something that's like super absurd, I totally forget that there's like 50 other absurd things happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now there's this video that I completely forgot about until now. And she's like, oh no. So I have to like go grab her atlas, but she's like, the Aquarius moonstone is on the bed, which is what she used to give him fleas. So she has to like slam the door in his face and like quickly hide it so that he doesn't find out. And anyway, she gets her atlas and starts watching the video. So I know I'm being nitpicky here. So she starts watching the recording and a song called You Can Leave Your Hat On by Tom Jones starts playing. Now, I am a bitch and I did my research. Now, this song was actually not by Tom Jones. He did a cover on it on the UK Voice, as well as for a soundtrack for a British film called The Full Monty, but the original artist was Joe Cocker.
Okay.
So, just letting you know that we're giving credit to somebody who didn't write the song. I'm pretty sure both of these people are dead now. Anyways. That song is playing. And the video is a strip video of Seth. And she's like, what is this supposed to be blackmailing? Like, you take your clothes off on the regular in front of a lot of people.
Constantly.
Like, it's just a stripping video of Seth. I wouldn't even have to pay you to do that in the Orb tomorrow.
You could probably ask him to be like, Seth, strip, and he would just be like, okay.
Yeah, and he's like, did you watch till the end? And she was like, no, but she does, and the end is him with a sign in front of his junk saying, I renounce my claim to the throne of Solaria. And she's like, Seth, why would you send this to me? Why would you even chance it? And he goes, it'll automatically delete at midnight. This is literally just to make sure that I don't fuck with you. And, like, he's also kind of like, I'm trusting you right now. Like, we're trying to build this trust.
What a screenshot of that so fast.
Oh, my God. So, anyways, she sends Tory a message being like, if you don't hear anything from me by midnight tonight, send this to the press. So we got big stakes. They leave pretty much at curfew, and she's like, hey, we got to curfew, and Seth is like, don't worry about it. Tory texts back being like, holy shit. Okay, come find us at the Orb after, we're still drinking. So Seth changes into his wolf form, she gets on his back, and you know what? She agrees to have some fun here. Like, she knows he's not going to fuck with her with this hanging over his head. Like, this trust situation worked. So she has a really good time riding on Seth, and, like, not in a sexual way, like on the back of the wolf.
The giant wolf, yeah.
And they ride out to the beach, and she's just having a grand old time. He's having fun. He's howling. It's, like, kind of a good time. So he finally changes back into his fae form. She gives him his clothes, and he goes to sit down on a rock, like, jutting out from the sand at the beach, and he asks her to join her for a few minutes. And she's like, no, can we go home now? And he's like, no, we have to bond. And, like, to be fair, that sounds sexual. And she's like, I don't really want to bond with you on a rock in sand and just in general. And he was like, you know what? That would be a lot easier if we could just have sex because, like, that's an easy. But, like, instead, you don't want to do that. So now we have to, like, be vulnerable with each other and have a conversation, which, like, I guess is better for Darcy. But, like, Tory would have been like, okay, let's just take our clothes off. Like,
yeah, Tory would have been like, we'll just bang, it's fine. I would rather not dive into my feelings.
Yeah. So now they have to emotionally bond. Seth ends up telling her the story of this family tradition that they have with wolves. And this is brought back to that that trauma with the snow and the whatever. So when Seth's family emerges as a wolf, they have to survive a week on their own up in Fable Mountain in northern Solaria. Cubs actually don't even get named until after what they call the forging, because a lot of them don't actually survive it. Most werewolf families have given up on this tradition, but some families still practice it. So he was only 5 when he had to do this, and his dad told him to spend the week in his wolf form just because it would be easier to survive. They left him in the cave with no food, no water, He survived the blizzard there because there was a blizzard that week, and he couldn't leave the cave at all. He was frozen and starving. He had never been alone before because they had like slept as a family growing up because wolves like touch and nuzzles. Um, and this was like especially hard for him because of that. He ended up only surviving because the snow piled so high and kept the wind out of the cave, but he was starving when they picked him up. It didn't matter, he'd survived, so he got named Seth. Super resilient name for surviving that. They're
Yeah.
like, congratulations. Like, you could at least go with like,
Something cool.
yeah,
Strong.
like I picture like Aragorn, not Seth.
Yeah, something really Celtic.
Yeah. Anyways, and so he also mentions that like, remember when he had when he had cut the hair off and made the bracelet, and Darcy afterwards made the comment, "You didn't break me, you forged me." It really made him reflect on the fact that he like kind of turned into his parents. Like he could never picture himself doing that to somebody else, and now he did. And then they like get into this weird hug. It works. They bond, and then he's like gasped. He's like, "Oh, thank fuck for that!" And she is initiated into his pack. Okay, over to Darius. So Darius this same evening is with Orion. They seem to have being done like whatever training they were talking about. This is also the detention that Orion had given Darius a little while before. Darius at this point is like lightheaded. He didn't eat before. He was distracted by this Xavier situation. Now Xavier is his brother. So Darius finally confides in Orion that Xavier has emerged as a Pegasus. He thinks that he's in danger from his father. And Orion kind of tries to be like, "You are not responsible for Xavier." And Darius is like, "What do you mean? Like, you tried to save Clara. Like, you tried to do everything you could for her." And Orion was like, "Yeah, it wasn't enough." And Darius is like, "Yeah, like, I don't want Xavier to get hurt. Fuck off." Um, so they speculate on like how it happened with Xavier being a Pegasus. Like, Lionel and Catalina had not been faithful during their marriage. This isn't, we know this. But we also don't think that Catalina or Lionel would have been stupid enough to like get pregnant. Like they would have been using protection spells.
Oh, yeah, against other people. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're saying like, how did Xavier genuinely become a Pegasus? Because like Catalina would not have risked getting pregnant with somebody not of the order. Like neither of them would have risked that.
Yeah, you also think like cuz technically there's the stars you're born under, probably the stars you're conceived under impact your order too. So
Yeah.
you would think they would be the kind of people who would plan that out meticulously.
Yeah. Anyways, so like they're trying to figure out how it happened. Lance does try to come up with some solutions to get Xavier around a herd. They basically need a herd similar to how a werewolf needs a pack. And so they're trying to like come up with things, but like it's not feasible. You know what I mean? Like getting Lionel to agree for Xavier to leave or to bring a herd in, like getting him around a pack is going to be too difficult.
Yeah.
But anyways, Darius does have a plan to head to the Acrox Manor to try and search for answers about their plans for the lunar eclipse, or at least get something personal enough to use as a reading. They say goodbye. Orion starts to head back to his place, and Darius to his. Orion reminds him to eat, and Darius tells him to like go get his Vega out of bed. He's like, "Go get your Vega out of bed," and Orion's like, "What? What do you mean? What do you know?" And then Darius is like, "No, she's your source. Go feed on her." And he was like, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll do that." um, they have like some gross banter about like how attractive they think the other are. They have like good humor about their situation.
Yeah.
Because they're sort of drawn to each other because of the bond.
But
they
like both of them are so straight.
So they kind of make comments to each other about how like Orion thinks Darius thinks Orion is hot, and Darius is like, "No, you're attracted to me." And like they make jokes about it. They have good humor about it. Anyways, so of course, Washer catches him immediately as Darius is walking back. And he's like, "Give me a taste of your lust." And Darius like immediately threatens him, right? Like Darius is trying to go get food. Washer comes up and is like, "Hey, can I have some of your lust? You're out past curfew." that's like his threatening
Yeah.
so that he won't tell people that he's outside of curfew, which like clearly these people don't care about the curfew.
No,
We're like
they were
we
drinking
already
in the
have
orb.
all of our main characters out after curfew. Like everybody's gone. And so Darius is like fuck off, and he like scares the shit out of Washer, and Washer's like, oh, I tried. So anyways, he goes to the orb to get food and a few beers, thinking about his conversation with Xavier, because Xavier had said that he overheard Father saying that he might have a way to fix Xavier, which sounds like a lot of experimentation that's
Yeah.
super illegal to do to your child, or anybody for that matter.
And like probably not gonna result in the kid you wanted to have in the end anyway.
Yeah. So he actually feels a little prick of magic, like Darius does, while he's in the orb. And if you don't remember, we had some drinky drinks earlier on at the orb, but he doesn't
Oh,
see
yeah.
anybody in there. So he feels that prick of magic and senses like someone close. So he kind of pushed away the sensation of this glamour and it fell away, revealing Tory and two of her powerless little friends. He doesn't care who these people are. Like he doesn't know Diego and Sophia's name, but
Yeah.
that's who's there, right? Tory is like climbing onto the table and slurring and stumbling. And the guy, we know him as Diego, caught her wrist to steady her, and Darius immediately gets irritable as another man touches her. I think it like skimmed her ass or something.
Nice.
Yeah. So he was about to leave. He was like, I can't be here. Until he overhears Tory say, I will never back out of a dare, Sophia, and you ordered a strip show. And so Darius is like,
Never mind.
Um, so here's the line, because he tries to not look over and his head's to the exit, but I quote, my damn dick wasn't going to let me leave without looking over at Roxy again. So he looks over, watches her take her shirt off. She's in this gold bra. Obviously great for a dragon boy. They love their gold.
Yeah. There's some gilded titties right there.
Mm-hmm. And then she falls off the table, and Sophia and Dago, he once again just is like the girl and the boy, like he doesn't know who these people are, went over to get her to like a cushioned chair, and as he's like trying to leave again, Sophia screams. And he looks back, and this like thick sheet of ice is like spreading across the ground. And Sophia runs to get a teacher, but just runs into Darius. And he's like, "What is happening?" Tory is using magic in her sleep, and apparently it's something the heirs have done before. Darius has like learned how to do this, especially when they were first awakened. Just because of how powerful they are, they lose control when they get drunk. Like he knows that this is a risk. So he goes over to her, and she's clearly having some sort of massive nightmare. She's having tears. She's whispering like, "No, not again." She's even coughing up water, and it was like she's clearly dreaming about being trapped under
The
water and ice, right? Like that's
in the
obviously
pool
what's happening.
by
Yeah.
Darius.
So he grabs her hand to help her wrangle the magic under control, but for some reason, they're power sharing, and like she needs to trust him in order to do that. And while she's drunk and unconscious, she like immediately trusts him, which makes no sense because she's dreaming about
Him
him
drowning
abusing
her.
her. So, okay. But, anyways, she does it. So he tries to get her to go more towards earth magic. Water would be dumb because she's scared of water. Fire, he says, would be really dangerous. So even though, because he doesn't have earth magic, even though he doesn't have it, he can still like help her with it, and it is harder for him, but it was kind of the safest option at the point. And as he does this, flowers just bloom everywhere in the orb. So, as they're like finishing this, she relaxes into his arms. He's like curled up into him. And when he goes to get up, she is like still unconscious and says, "Don't leave me." And he was like, "This girl doesn't know who's holding me."
Yeah,
And like subconsciously, she doesn't.
No.
So Darius is like, "Okay, I won't." So he carries her out, and he like justifies this to himself that he's like, "I can't let the nymphs get a hold of this power. Like, I need to protect Celeria. I cannot leave her be."
I just love the mental gymnastics all of them are doing at this point to be like, it's for the greater good.
It's not because I might like a girl.
Yeah. Like, we'll protect him. She can be part of the pack. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. It's not because I like her. So Diego does try to stop Darius. Obviously, once again, he doesn't know who Diego is, but he's like, "No, go home. You're not even from Ignis." Now, I'm starting to get suspicious about Darius or Diego at this point.
Okay.
So the reason being is this is the second time, like, Tory could have just drank too much. So could have Sophia in book 1 when she, like, got all those shots for them.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Sophia gets, like, really blackout drunk and Diego has to take her home
On, like, nothing.
on nothing. This is the second time that around Diego,
Someone has gotten
someone has
blackout.
gotten blackout drunk and Diego's, like, trying to take her home. And, like, Diego's also just been acting weird. Like, he's
a little obsessed.
overly sad about everything.
Yeah.
I don't trust him right now.
Okay.
I think something's going on there. And then Sophia also isn't really convinced easily. Like, she's like, no, you're not taking her. And she's, like, starting to glow, like, as if, like, losing control of her order glow. And Darius is kind of like, you know what? I respect it. You got balls. But he's like, I'm still taking her. And Sophia just, like, followed them back to Ignis. They're all part of Ignis. And as they got back, he's trying to, like, take Tory to his room. And you know what? To Sophia's credit, like, Tory is passed out. Darius is a dick.
Yeah.
Good for her for trying to stop this situation.
Yeah, she's like, no, man.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I have Tori's keys. I have her bag. Let's take her to his room. And Darius is like, no, she could lose control of her magic again. And, like, Sophia just doesn't trust this man. Like, she's like, what are you going to do? Like, don't, you know what I mean? Like, she's kind of like, don't fuck with her. So Darius actually gets angry at this accusation. He's like, I'm not going to do what you think that I'm going to do. Like, I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
And she actually seemed to accept that. She's like, oh, like, you must, like, okay, I believe you. So Darius actually kind of has an idea. And he's like, wait, Sophia, right? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, well, I have this third cousin who his order just emerged as a Pegasus, and his name is Philip. Which, like, obviously it's not. It's his brother, and it's Xavier, but he's trying to not make it sound like the royal family is in turmoil. And he's like, you know, he's having a really hard time dealing with the shame of the order. And she's like, the shame of what? She's like, what do you mean shame? And so Darius kind of levels with her, and he's like, listen, in my family, being shamed by this is the nicest thing that you could have. So you could imagine how that boy is being treated right now.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to make things better for him. Would you mind talking to him?
Yeah.
And she starts to be like, oh, like, you're not actually a monster. Like, you...
Shocking.
Yeah.
Given everything he's done up until this point.
So she's still tentative about him, but she says, I'll send you my number. You can give it to Philip. I'll talk to him. Then he takes Roxy into his room. She is, like, soaking wet and shivering. He starts taking her shoes off, and she's, like, kind of conscious at this point. She's, like, thinks that it's Darcy helping her, and she's like, Darcy, I can do it myself. So she kind of, like, gets up and just starts taking her shirt off and her skirt. And so she takes her skirt off. She's in gold panties, by the way, too.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's, like, having a meltdown because in his head he's like, I could never have her. Even if I could, she still hates me. And he's like, I was supposed to hate her, and I can't stop protecting her. And
Pout, pout, pout.
My life sucks. Anyways, so she begs him not to leave, so they do sleep in the same bed, and he very, very clearly can't sleep in the same bed as her. Like, you're naked and in gold lingerie, and I can't handle that, so you're gonna need to put a shirt on. So she does, and then she also, like, straddles him for a second, but then she, like, has to run off of him to go and puke. And then she comes back and she's like, I think it's insane that you have a huge jacuzzi in your bathroom. And then pretty much they go to sleep. It's just a whole, like, super drunken, messy situation. Okay, chapter 10 to Tory. So Tory is, like, Tory is laying there, but she's dreaming about how she used to have this dream about how she would be, like, sleeping in her parents' loving arms in, like, their bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And this dream felt really familiar because that's kind of what's happening now. She feels really protected, except for it's not this, like, warm, soft love of her parents. It's a hard chest. But she still feels really protected. And so her eyes are closed, And she kind of starts to like just feel this other person, like she's tracing this other person that's there. And she's not really knowing what's going on. And so he's like tracing and all of that stuff. And so he just starts speaking and he's like, you're gonna have to stop doing that or I'm gonna stop being a gentleman about the situation. Like, he is uncomfortable, she is touching him. And
Yeah.
then she's like, she hears the voice, right? And she's like, wait, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't remember shit. She's waking up to an insane hangover. This is not a dream. She is in Darius's bedroom. Now, Darius doesn't know that she has been in this bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
But she has, because she burnt it down. So she's in Darius's bedroom. And she, like, doesn't move. And she starts to think about their truth of dare. Like, what happened? Right? Like, they were playing truth or dare. They were drinking. They were starting to, like, brainstorm about ways that they could get Diego's hat back. And then she remembers nothing. And so that's, like, she notes, like, I wouldn't get, like, I know how much alcohol I can handle. I've drank a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking.
Weird.
It's weird. It's weird.
It's starting to be a trend.
It is a trend. So he then now starts playing, like, Darius starts playing with her hair. And she's immediately like, please tell me we didn't do what I think we might have done while I was really drunk. And he's like, I prefer my girls a little less blind drunk and a little more eagerly responsive. And then he says, besides, you wouldn't forget if I fucked you.
That's setting the bar real high.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't know if you should set the expectations that high, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know if any man can actually make that statement.
But
and follow through on it.
Yeah. And then they kind of just keep sort of talking and like innocently touching each other. And as they are, their magic starts to like intertwine and it becomes this kind of experience. Like they're really addicted to like that. She ends up pushing it out because she's like, I could get really lost in this. But instead of moving, she just lays there and she's like, she's obsessing over all of his tattoos and all of those things. Things do take a turn though when she starts to realize that like she's only ever had one nightmare and he was asking her about the nightmare and she's like, I've only ever had one. And he was like, well, and she starts to kind of leave. So he's like, don't leave, talk to me for a second. And so she's like, okay, like she became really cold about the situation and she was like, well, I did used to have one nightmare, but that's changed. It used to be the car crash when I went into the water, but now my dream has changed. Now when I have that nightmare, I actually manage to get out of the car, but when I get to the surface, it's frozen over. And he starts to kind of like make excuses for the situation. He's like, I know how awful it was. I was just trying to prove to the others that they weren't like that. To prove to the rest of Solaria that you weren't strong enough to hold the throne, and we didn't think about the repercussions of our actions. And it's like, classic rich privileged dragon boy.
Yeah,
Of course you didn't think about the repercussions of your actions. You didn't think that when you were doing a traumatizing thing to this girl about what would happen to that girl after.
No moment of thought went into that one.
She also realized that she brought the dagger here because it was in her satchel. And so now there's a dagger in her room, and that's kind of all that happens. He doesn't sense it or anything, which I find weird, but she just like makes sure it's hidden. But there is a dagger in his room for a sec. He actually ends up telling her about all the shitty things his father did to him to help him face his fears, because he was like, well, I was always taught to face your fears, and you have a fear of water, and so like you should, like, that's how I was taught, that we should just always face our fears. And he was like, yeah, he used to make me jump off cliffs, walk through fire, lock me up in tight spaces, beat me, drown me, whip me. And I'm like, yeah, well, it didn't work.
Yeah, maybe your dad is not the role model for this, and we should not be using him.
Yeah, but she does say, she's like, well, congratulations, now you are just like him. So she goes back to her room, and when she looks in the mirror, her eyes were alight with the thrill of Darius's magic. She does get a little horoscope, saying it's been a turbulent start to the day. no shit. But things aren't just black and white, and to open her mind to the possibility of change. Also, a Libra and a Pisces are going to dampen your flame, but your luck might change. And as she is heading to the orb, she hears fresh meat again. The sophomores are coming, or the seniors, or the juniors, or whoever. So she's like, no, I'm not dealing with all of these students trying to harass me today. So she just, kind of like a badass, sends magic that just sends all of the people and the furniture flying everywhere. Darius is the one who misses it, so he doesn't get flown. And then she went to the orb that is just covered in the flowers of every color imaginable. And they were growing through this thick layer of ice. And she's kind of taken a moment to like be like, hey, I did that. I'm impressed with myself.
Yeah.
Like, look at all this magic that I produced. And the teachers actually even say, like, they can't do anything about it because it's too powerful. The magic won't budge. So pat on the back to Tory. All right, we are back to doing more pranks, and Tory does have this purple Pegasus horn vibrator and a riding whip that they got personalized to have Caleb's name on it. And like, okay, this, like, I don't think it's that good of a prank. Like, I mean, nobody's bringing a vibrator to the orb. Like, that's obviously planted, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. She does hide it in their little sofa, and then meets Darcy and at the orb, and they start talking about what happened, and they kind of start to realize like all four of these heirs have somehow managed to behave in a not asshole way in the last 24 hours,
Which is concerning.
which is concerning. And then the heirs find the toys, everyone starts taunting them, and they end up storming from the room. Everyone's laughing at them. It's a whole thing. And Tory and Darcy are kind of starting to look like the asshole here.
Are they?
It's still close. Maybe both of them.
Yeah.
I think the heirs need to go to therapy, and then they could have some redemption.
Yeah.
Therapy would be good for them.
Therapy would be a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, chapter 11, back to Darcy. We are on to Cardinal Magic again.
Yes.
And this is an insane class. Okay, so Orion comes in looking like absolute death and just beelines it to Darcy to take some blood. It is like very clearly a sexual experience. Nobody questions it though because Darcy is Orion's source, which you would think that if they're not allowed to sleep with each other, professors also wouldn't be allowed to injure them, but that's clearly not the case.
No, they're definitely allowed to injure them.
Yeah, so this is like a whole sexual experience for them. He doesn't take as much as she would have thought that he would have, and he ends up like healing her right after and all of that stuff. Then he goes right to the front of the class and writes on the board, "You are all a bunch of horny teenagers." He's not wrong.
Yeah, no, not even a little bit wrong.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in sex education class for Faye. Darcy actually remembers a horoscope. She got a horoscope this morning, and it said that a Libra would make her blush today, and she was kind of hoping for something a little bit different than this. But we're doing sex ed with Orion. Now, Tyler Corbin is pretty pumped about this. He is the massively obnoxious kid in your sex ed class who just, like, makes inappropriate jokes the whole time. So, we're back in middle school again.
Probably is going to ask weird questions, too.
Yeah.
Oddly specific questions.
Yeah. So, apparently in this world, as the lunar eclipse gets closer, all of the Fae are going to be under the powerful influence of its sway, which tends to bring out the more carnal side of the orders. So, Principal Nova wants to make sure that everybody is prepared in class, so that just in case their libidos get a little bit out of control and no one has any accidental pregnancies. Tory's like, this is not good for my hangover, which, like, obviously Orion hears it. He's a vampire. And so Orion's like, are you getting drunk on, like, a Tuesday night? And Orion's like, yeah, do you want to heal me, please? That would be great. And he starts just, like, screaming in her face. He's like, I'm not gonna heal you. How about this, Tory? This is,
Also, Orion is the last person who gets to judge about someone getting drunk on a Tuesday night.
I know.
He is constantly sloshed.
I know, and this book keeps like this, it just has the weirdest mix of university and middle school topics. Like, we were just in middle school with like this obnoxious kid just making inappropriate jokes during sex ed, and now we're in like a teacher making fun of a student for coming to their class hungover.
Yeah.
This is like this goes from being 12 to 18 so much. Okay, he taps the screen and a list of 4 random things pop up. Pegasus glitter, pink crystals, moon rock, and enchanted birthstones. And Kylie's like, oh my god, Pegasus glitter is the only way to kill werewolf sperm. My cousin told me that. And he's like, you're an idiot. But Kylie's like, no, it works because me and Seth have never had any issues. And I don't even want to think about how Pegasus glitter gets involved in that situation. But it does actually turn out that this list is a myth of birth control. They don't work. So he's like, no, Seth has been protecting himself. But, like, you should also be doing that because it's not 100% effective unless you both do it. So, it's a spell. You have to perform the spell every 30 days. Boys have to face the direction of Mars, and girls have to face the direction of Venus. It'll also protect from STIs, which we will name a few. We will name a few of them.
Oh, yeah.
There is Chlamydia. There's Centiphilus. There's Grifforia. And there's manty crabs. So this spell also protects from that. So as he's talking, Francesca comes in and interrupts, saying she really needs his memories now from the nymph attack. It'll only take 10 minutes, though. And Tyler's like, hey, is that your girlfriend, Orion? And nobody really says anything, and Darcy's like, wait, he has a girlfriend? But don't worry. So Orion's going to go to get Francesca his memories, but don't worry because Professor Washer is here to help them through this. So Orion was like about to show them contraceptive spells on fruit, but don't worry, Washer has other plans. He starts pulling out a minotaur horn, a werewolf tail, feathers, scaly clawed gloves, fake vampire fangs, and starts to teach the class about fetishes. Washer actually, so because Washer's a siren, he then starts to go around to try and like get everybody to admit their fetishes. So Tory ends up admitting in front of this whole class, like, Caleb and I have this super hot game where he chases me. And then Darcy, because he's about to do it to Darcy too. That's a problem. Because Orion
is teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Teacher-student is her fetish.
But Darcy figures out how to fight off his powers.
Oh!
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Outing yourself as breaking the one rule would be the one way to do this.
Panic and fear really seem to be the way to
Good
get
motivators.
them to use their magic really, really effectively. He also, like, has some other embarrassing sex stories. Like, one of the guys, his boyfriend gets him to dress up as Darius, and now everybody knows about it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's just, like, little stuff like that. So, anyways, now everybody is embarrassed. Kylie was like, oh, sometimes Seth makes me howl, and I like it when he does it, too. It's just a whole thing. So, anyways, we're being very fetish positive about it in this class, but it's very embarrassing. And Orion finally gets back, and they start practicing on the fruit. Orion seems very interested in ensuring Darcy can do this. And by the end of the lesson, she, like, managed a little bit, and Orion asks her to stay behind to help her clean up. Because there's a lot of fruit destroyed by the class, and he's like, don't try this on yourself until you can do this on fruit without blowing it up, please, and thank you.
He's like, I don't want to clean that up, thanks.
Yeah. So, Darcy stays behind, and Orion is upset that she didn't answer his text about the hair. And they have this little moment where she's like, okay, I'm gonna leave, and then it doesn't. And then she's like, okay, I'm leaving now, and then nobody moves. And then he's like, I'm gonna die if you don't kiss me. But before that happens, Principal Nova comes in, knocking on the door, forcing them apart, and she needs him to skip his lunch. Nova needs Orion to skip his lunch to attend a faculty meeting about the students ignoring their curfew rules. Because the house points in detention was not threat enough for them to all follow curfew. I don't know what would be, to be fair.
Yeah, like, are you gonna lock them into it at night or something?
would be more, it's probably more possible, except for they're all, like, some of the students are more powerful.
That's true. They can just get out.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, chapter 12, Tory. We're headed to the orb for lunch, and all Tory wants is something greasy. Jerry is realizing that she's, like, hungover, is, like, deciding to go get a bunch of disgusting shit to make a remedy for her, and Sophia's like, okay, I'll just get you some greasy food, don't worry about it. Darcy's not there yet, but Caleb does come up to her, asking her to play a little game, which makes Diego spit out his water, because Tori's like, oh yeah, I accidentally sort of told the entire class that we play this game, and so now everybody knows about it. And Caleb's like, I'll take care of the issue. And then while you do that, like, you get your greasy food so you can cure from your hangover. I'll go take care of this washer situation, and then we can play. And she was like, no, I'm hungover. So Caleb immediately heals her. And she's like, I don't want to play. But then that lasts for 5 seconds, and he convinces her.
Because she really did want to play.
Yeah, pull my rubber arm. So she's like, okay, it can start 20 minutes before class. Diego is, like, clearly annoyed by Caleb being friendly with Tory and Darcy, and finally appears as they start talking about what the air trial might involve the next day. And afterwards, Tory goes to find a hiding spot. She finds this, like, tree in the Wailing Wood with a hollow area in its base to hide in, and just, like, camps out and starts scrolling Faybook. She starts to hear him outside within 1 minute left, but she manages to stay hidden for it, and she wins. And so she hears him and is just like, for fuck's sakes, like, he's pissed, like, actually mad. And so she goes and confronts him, and he looks pissed, and so he slams her up against a tree, clearly, like, very much upset, like, that he didn't win. Very upset. And he was like, I thought you escaped. And she's like, sorry, you didn't think that I escaped. I did escape.
Yeah.
I win. You're not taking any blood from me. And he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, no, we have to stick to the rules. Like, otherwise there's no point in playing.
Yeah, there's no stakes, there's no fun.
Yeah, so he's, like, all upset, clearly all pent up sexual energy. And he's like, okay, well, what do you get if you win then? And that ends up being a little happy ending in the forest. For her. Not for him.
You know what? Good on her.
Yeah. So he promises to win next time, and she says, well, in that case, I might return the favor. But he does end up with a little consolation prize. He steals her underwear in the middle of the day, and she has to go to class. Yes, she does. Tarot card class with Washer.
Oh.
She was late to class, but Washer said that he was already informed, and he was, like kind of trembling, and so Caleb definitely, like, scared the shit out of him. And Kylie also, like, complains, like, you took house points from me for arriving 1 minute late, but clearly, like, the heirs just get treated differently, and that's something Kylie is obviously upset about.
Which is weird, because she expects to be treated differently because she's Caleb's not really girlfriend.
Seth's, yeah.
Or Seth, yeah.
Mm-hmm, I know. Washer does explain that this will be his last class teaching tarot reading, and that those who survive the reckoning will get a new guy who has the actual gift of sight named Professor Knox. And Diego and Tory also, again, get into, like, a little spat. She, like, calls him out for, once again, being upset about his hat, which, like, seems to upset him quite a bit again. And Tory seems to be getting irritated that he's getting constantly upset about things that, like, are silly. And I get it. Diego's not being treated well. But nobody here gets treated well.
Yeah. Everyone gets treated equally shitty.
Yeah. So now they're going through tarot cards, and another card from Astrom's deck comes up. Now, if you don't know who Astrom is, it's probably because he has not been brought up in, like, a solid 500 pages. At this point, we forgot he existed. But basically, Astrom got killed in the first book, but he was, like, a friend of the King of Solaria, like the Savage King or something, or, like, his mom or something. He was their mom's friend.
Yeah, he was important back then, and then he's left them little clues on Their mom's tarot deck?
Yes, her mom's tarot deck. And like they do think it's weird how he keeps sending them. Like he's been dead for a while. How did you have the foresight to now be like continuing to send these weeks and weeks later? But Sophia does explain that objects of special significance can stay linked to spirits after they pass. Some really powerful fae can manage to send messages back to the living from beyond the veil. Sophia also explains that the Empress, which is the tarot card they pulled, is associated with all things maternal, creation of life, pregnancy, romance, etc. Which I guess is like sort of related to the lunar eclipse because they're all sexy and
Feral
their
for each
libidos
other.
are crazy during this time, so I guess you could do that. But on the back of all these tarot cards, there's always words, and this one says, "In the palace of souls rests a secret untold. Find the light who burned on after the fire." Obviously makes no sense to us, but Sophia is like, actually, the Palace of Souls is the Vega family place. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they actually start to think, like, actually, you know what, we should probably go visit it now that we know it exists, and, like, we can probably get in there, no problem. But Tory starts to feel uncomfortable with, like, going to see her family's place, so she's like, well, let's just wait till after the reckoning. So we'll come back to that in a couple books, probably. So now they have to go to their fire class, and Tori's kind of like, I would really like my underwear back for this. Like, tarot card class was one thing, but fire class...
Would you want to put underwear back on, though? If you went through, like, half the day, and then you're like, oh, let me pull on this freshly used underwear?
Yeah,
I think I'd rather be commando, personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a dangerous class to be in with no underwear, I feel like. Especially at this school.
That's true. That's true.
Anyways, so she's kind of like asking Caleb for them, but she's like vaguely doing it. She's like, hey, like, because there's people around. So she's like, hey, you have something of mine. Can I get that back? And he's like, do I? But then Darius comes out, and that rattles Tory because she's like, oh, wait, I don't want Darius to know, like, all this situation. And so Tory gets frustrated. And Caleb's like, well, I'll give them back if you come and spend the night at Terra House. And she was like, no, turns away, no underwear for fire class. Okay, chapter 13. Darcy is headed to Pluto to get a package and finds Diego there. It's rainy and it's gross out, and Diego's like wet, and he asks her what she ended up getting in a package. And this is like a weird interaction to me. She's like, it's a secret. And she was like, well, what did you get? And he goes, oh, I got glue to try and glue this box that Orion destroyed back together. And he's like, well, again, what did you get? And she was like, it's a secret. And they like kind of start to play around, but he's like, he does get weird about wanting to know what's in the box, but like it's apparently playful and she's playful. I don't know. This is a whole weird. The box ends up randomly getting torn away from her, and then but it's like it's pulled away from her, like something happened, and Orion is standing there. So Orion is the one who like pushed this box away, like wanting them to get away, and he kind of seems surprised about what he did. But Darcy is immediately relieved that the package isn't still in the box when Orion like picks it up and gives it to her, so he doesn't see it. And then Orion was like 10 points from air because he's all like pissed off. And then Diego's like, why would you do that? And then Diego's like, you're a bloodsucker, but he said it in Spanish. And so Orion like taunts him back, accusing him of having a crush on Darcy. Like he's like, Diego has a crush on me, on Darcy. And Darcy's like, no, he doesn't. And then it's like this really weird thing. And because like she's like, well, he likes Diego or Sophia, like Diego likes Sophia, and then he goes all sad boy because Sophia likes Tyler Corbin. He just gets all depressed again.
Yeah, it's his natural state of being.
Yeah, and Orion was originally there because he also had to get a package, so he goes up to his mailbox, and Darcy does clock that the box that he was getting it from was titled Orion, number 3 asteroid place.
Ooh.
So
she's got his address now.
Yeah, she's got his address. So Darcy, after this whole thing, for some reason wants to cheer Diego up. I've got beef with Diego right now. I don't trust him. So she goes to get Sophia and Tory to meet them in the orb and help him get his hat back. So a bunch of them go. Like Jerry's there, Angelica's there, and they bust down the door and realize that there's a protective spell on the watermelon and it has to be Diego to get it. There's a note on it that says he has to bleed for what he wants. Prove your fae. And so Diego does it again. He does it. He makes a cut. It bleeds. He gets his hat back, and he's all happy after this. I don't know. He's moody right now. I don't trust him. And Angelica also, I'll add, helps clean up the office. Her magic just helps put everything back together. So Orion will never know that they're there. Okay, Darcy finally goes back and she heads to the bathroom with her package. And she gets ready for a new Darcy. She's going to be a girl who's fae, who's royal, and wasn't afraid to trust anybody. We'll also say, apparently, fae hair dye is awesome.
Yeah, jealous.
That is what she gets. She gets hair dye. It's shimmery and really colorful. And, of course, she went with blue. Because it means she likes him.
Yeah.
Because she does like him. So she's really excited. She wants to show Orion. And it is the evening now, but she rereads her horoscope from the morning, and apparently she has to make an important decision that will cause change. So the stars are in perfect harmony with a Libra, and it's telling her to follow her intuition, which I just think is really dangerous to tell her to do right now.
Yeah.
But she's on board. And so, okay, just here's another note. So she goes over to the window and she's looking outside. It's dark and stormy. And she just has this random urge to throw her magic out into the storm that was raging outside to see if she could equal its power. I don't know. That just felt like a hint to me. Unless it's just a random description. It's just she's drawn to the storms.
The chaos.
Yeah. She also notices a teacher patrolling, because apparently everyone's still on edge after the nymph attack, but, to be honest with you, I kind of fully forgot about this nymph situation because nobody seems to care about it at all.
Yeah, they're all drinking, doing whatever the bonding thing was.
Yeah.
Sneaking into teachers' apartments.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that she really wants is to show Orion her hair, so naturally late at night, I believe it's a Wednesday now. Yes, it's a Wednesday. She texts him. He then texts her back with a very suggestive photo of him. He's reading, shirtless, and he wants a photo back. He makes excuses as well for why he got mad about Diego earlier, and finally he admits okay, I was jealous. I don't like you seeing you with other men. And she finally sends a pic back with her hair in a pillowcase so that he can't see. He's obviously dying with anticipation because she's like, I dyed it, but I don't want you to see yet. So she she makes a decision here.
She sure does.
And the deciding factor in her brain was he really needs a little company for all of those muscles. It really would be a travesty for them to be alone tonight.
Yeah, they need to be felt up and touched and appreciated.
Yeah, so since she has his address from the mailroom, she sneaks out into the rain and over to Asteroid Place. She figures out a way to launch herself into the air and over the fence and lands on her feet, finds his house, and knocks. And she looks up at him and she's like, blue. And he says nothing at all and pulls her inside. And basically, this is super awkward for a bit. He's like, drink? And she's like, sure. And then he's like, what? She's like, water. And then it's silent. And then eventually it's so awkward that she's like, okay, I made a mistake. I'm leaving. This is weird. And he rushes in front of her and is like, no. And she goes, are you drinking? And he goes, no. And she's like, are you angry I'm here? And he goes, no. And she goes, is that all you're going to say? And he goes, no. And she's like, bro, can you just say something? I'm here. Can we, this is weird. So he's obviously speechless and happy she's here. And then he asks her to call him Lance, and he knows the risk. And so, okay, they bang. It happens. Yep. They go into the room. They have this whole thing. It's amazing. They do it all. And there's also a silencing charm, just so that nobody can hear it. And afterwards, they're like laying in bed. She's panicking a little bit. She just slept with a teacher. They both agree that this wasn't a mistake. He's like, "Do you think this was a mistake?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Me either. I want to do this. But like, we have to be really secretive about it. We can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
We've got to be careful. You can't even tell Tory."
You broke the one rule.
The whole one rule. And
You fucked the teacher.
the stakes are high.
You finally fucked the teacher.
Too many books.
2.5 books in,
Oh my
basically.
goodness. Okay, so that just happened. We're gonna go back to Tory. So this is the night, once again, night before their first trial. Darius texts Tory, and he's like, "I'm coming over so that we can go to and fight like our bike race.
Oh yeah,
We're doing
yeah.
our motorbike race." Tori's frustrated with him, but she's also intrigued, and she's like, "I want that bike. I'm winning a bike from this situation, and I want it." So she went full biker Tory. She was like extra eyeliner, extra dark lipstick, ripped black jeans, leather jacket, new boots. We are also once again reminded of the dagger. She does make the decision not to take it with her. So she doesn't want to like give Darius the satisfaction of coming to her, so she decides to go to him, and on the way she runs into Marguerite. So Marguerite tries to coerce her into telling her why she's here. Tory did have her shield up, but she like pretends that the coercion worked. So when Marguerite was like, "Tell me why you're here," she says, "I'm here because I spend all of my spare time watching you and wanting to be like you. But you're mean to me and won't be my best friend forever, like I so wish you would. So I decided to become you instead. I'm starting off by creeping up here to seduce your precious Darius and screw him senseless just to make you cry. Then I'm going to dye my hair the cheapest, shittiest shade of red I can find, and finally I'll become the head cheerleader because I fucking love being cheery. Mostly I'm going to do it because I'm obsessed with you, but partly because I'm a psycho bitch who just wants to ruin your life." What an insane speech. But Marguerite thinks that she's not lying because she thinks she coerced her. So Marguerite has like an absolute meltdown. And she's like, "Both of your parents died because they didn't want to be with you and Darcy." And Tori's like, "Did you just insult my sister?" And so they try to like almost get in a fight. Marguerite tries to launch flames at her, but she threw water right at her face. She's knocked back into her bedroom, gets flooded, and basically was like threatened her and was like, "That barely scratched the surface of my powers. Never do that again." Boss bitch, okay.
Imagine how long you had to have to like think about that monologue.
Dude.
Like they must sit in the few moments of quiet they have in their lives because again, 2.5 days.
Yep.
Maybe three days.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, we're on Wednesday night. To just think about what they were gonna say to people.
I know. You're telling me she pulled that out of her ass?
Yeah, no, she thought about that for hours.
Hours.
When she should have been sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't sleep.
On Monday night because she got fucking wasted on Tuesday night.
As she's leaving, Darius is basically right there, heard the whole thing, and he's like, "I hope you meant that part about screwing me senseless." And Tori's like, "In your dreams." And then he goes, "Every night." So they go to Darius's room to use Stardust to go to Casa Al Crux because his parents are gone anyways. So this is actually the excuse that Darius had to go back that week to Snoop because he needs something personal of his father's. He is trying to be sneaky and like not inform too many people though, because even though like the nymph attack was overshadowing the performance of their pitball game, they still lost, and his dad is like still big about him being a whole embarrassment and would probably come back and like get mad at him. So Darius is trying not to inform his father that he's back. It is storming out. It's thundering and lightning like crazy, but they are still going to try and race. So Darius still hasn't told Tory what she wants if she wins, because in his words, that prize isn't on the table. Jenkins the butler grabs her jacket with her atlas in it, and he's sending drinks up to Darius's room. They're having kind of this like playful thing going on with their magic, like his will brush against hers, she'll deny him entry, but like they both really want to like power share, they really enjoy it, but it's just this whole thing. She asks him about his childhood growing up, and he described the first few years the same as anyone else's, and then proceeds to describe a childhood that is very much not the same as anyone else's. Like, oh, we stayed in one side of this manor with our nannies and our tutors. We had everything we ever wanted. Super standard childhood.
Yeah, the huge.
The usual. And then he shares like how as they started to get older, he had to learn more about his responsibilities, and him and Xavier had to spend a lot more time with his dad to prepare him to take the seat on the Celestial Council. And then he asked her about hers, and she was like bouncing around Foster's and all of the things that were Tory's upbringing. And he did ask her an interesting question if she had always felt like she was not at home in the mortal world, because when he goes there, it always feels like he's missing something. And she does kind of wonder, like, she was like, well, I didn't really know at the time, but like, there might have been some truth to that, because like, I always kind of, like, I never felt like I was home until I came here.
Yeah.
But that also could have been the Foster situation. Like, there was a lot of factors here. They went into Darius's childhood room, and it was pretty, like, sophisticatedly manly, but it did have some, like, trains and pitball trophies. Like, it still had that boyish feel to it. But she did find a picture of the four heirs as a kid, and they kind of have a little laugh about how Seth and Darcy were both, like, the clumsy kids, and have another moment realizing that they're actually enjoying each other's company.
Panic.
Yeah, so as they're like starting to be like, oh no, what is happening? Xavier's voice comes through and it was like, oh, I thought I heard you were in here. They made some small talk with Xavier, and Tory asks him if he's excited for Zodiac Academy. Obviously, doesn't know about the Pegasus situation yet. And he asks Tory if she would marry Darius if she emerged as a dragon to save him from Mildred. And they both make snarky comments about, oh my god, that would never happen. Like, she's not a pureblood. Also, we hate each other.
As we giggle together in this bedroom.
Oh my goodness. So Darius needs to go and check on some things downstairs. We know that he's snooping around to find something of his father's. So he asks Xavier if he can keep Roxy, still calling her Roxy, company for him. So Xavier gets a bit nervous and is like, Darius, do you think that's a good idea? And Darius is like, no, it's okay. You are in control. It'll be fine. He was not fine. So Xavier and Tory kind of wait awkwardly, but Xavier, for some reason, this conversation turns to like him suggesting that they used to ride tray slides down the stairs. Did you ever do this as a kid?
Bryce and I did it with a mattress.
We always used to do this with mattresses.
Or like the Rubbermaid bins. We did that a couple times.
Oh yeah, or
that
like,
was disastrous.
Yeah, we used to do it with like laundry hampers too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, but we can't do that now because we're too big. And Tori's like, hell no, let's do it. So they're getting ready to it, and Xavier makes a comment on how he can see why Darius likes her, and she's like, no, he doesn't like me.
No.
We don't like each other. We hate each other. Remember? We don't like each other. This isn't we don't have a friendship. We really hate each other. So after a few rounds of them sliding down this thing, they're having an absolute blast. But Xavier starts glowing, and she starts to get really confused. So after a few more times down the slide, he was growing like so brightly, it lit up the space around him. So she's like, dude, you're literally sparkling. He ends up losing full control and turns into a glimmering lilac Pegasus. All she does, bless her soul, all she does is smile widely and was like, well, shit, no wonder I like you so much. You skipped the asshole dragon genes. So she's like fully accepting him, and she like moves closer, and she starts to like pet his nose, and he sighs. He looks sad, but he's like really leaning into it. And Darius comes back, and he's like, oh my god. And he's like, please don't tell anyone. And she's like, why not? He's gorgeous. Xavier transitions back and it was like, thank you for not even batting an eye or thinking there's something good about me. So he leaves and Darius thanks Tory for being accepting of him and really drills that she cannot tell anyone because of his dad. And she was like, listen, I'm not going to do anything to hurt Xavier. I actually like this kid. Like, yeah, I'm not
he's
doing
a half-decent human being, unlike the rest of you.
Yeah. If it was you, this might be different, which we know it wouldn't be. But, like, with Xavier, she likes him. You don't have to worry. They finally finish up, and they head back down to do their race. Jenkins, the butler, is waiting for them at the bottom with her leather jacket. And they also go to this like metal cabinet key near the elevator to go down to the bikes, and he unlocks it, and she does note the code. The code is 1678 Octothorpe 43. To the kids here, that's a hashtag. Previously known as Octothorpe. So she memorizes this code, and as they're heading down, she also takes a look at her atlas. Caleb is texting her, asking if they can play games, and his power is running low. She wants to chase him, and she just sends him back a message saying, "Sorry, but I got a better offer. You can bite someone else tonight. I won't be offended." He's like, "What are you talking about? Like, where are you? What's this better offer you're talking about?" And he keeps pressing her. And he's like, "No, like, come, you're just being coy or whatever." And she's like, "No, seriously, dude, I got a better offer. I'm not even on campus."
Oh, you just know Caleb's seething too.
Mm-hmm. So Darius comes back and is like, "Am I keeping you from your friends tonight?" And she's like, "No, actually, this is one of yours. He's pretty persistent." And he like knows it's Caleb, so he takes out his phone and he starts texting. And then Caleb is also continuing to text Tory. So by the time she looks at her atlas again, she sees a shirtless pic from Caleb and then a bunch of irritated messages being like, "Can you confirm that? Are you actually with Darius right now?" And she looks up at Darius and is like, "Do you just text Caleb to tell him we're together?"
Fucking weirdo.
And he's like, "Well, are you trying to keep it a secret?" And she's like, "No, I can't wait to tell everybody tomorrow that I beat your ass and got a motorcycle off of you, but I think you pissed Caleb off." And so then he takes his atlas, he takes a picture of him, like Darius kissing Tory on the forehead, and sends it to Caleb. But like, she's enjoying this. Like, she's laughing and she's having a good time and like, whatever. And like, obviously pissing Caleb. Like, this is a mean thing to do to Caleb.
I know, poor Caleb. He's just like, he's thirsty in so many different ways.
Darius is his friend.
and that.
Anyways, they finally decide to bike. And in order to keep it fair, because Tori's like not able to shelter herself from the rain with her magic, he's like, "I'll also bike in the rain. I don't need you trying to think that I only won because of this."
Just would like to point out the psychosis that it would take to do a motorcycle race in the rain.
Oh my god.
Without protective gear.
Oh my god. So dumb. So dumb. So they have some banter, and he asks what kind of bike she owned in the mortal world. So she's like, "I didn't own a bike in the mortal world." And he's like, "What do you mean you didn't own, like, what do you mean you used to love bikes?" And she like immediately put a stop to this conversation. And he's like not pleased, like he's enjoying talking to her, and she's like, "No." So they pick this 15-mile loop and they go, and they're both really good riders. They're going back and forth with the lead. They're doing cool turns, cool motorcycle scene. With a third of the mile left, she could see the end, and she had sped past Darius. And while she sped past him, she like missed something he said, and that is when she looks ahead and sees a burning tree that had been hit by lightning and crashed right in front of her. So she squeezes the brakes, but it spins out because of the wet path. And as she's spinning out, she also catches sight of the same thing happening to Darius. Once her bike collided with the tree, she was thrown into the air and magic was pouring out of her uncontrollably. She ends up getting caught up in this vortex of wind that helped with the fall, but then after she fell, Darius slams right into her. Their helmets hits with each other, which definitely makes like a lot of pain happen.
Yeah.
So once they were laying there, and he immediately checks if he's okay. He's like, "Tory, are you okay?" Like, checking her out, touching her, all of this stuff. And she's like, "Bro, how did we survive that?" And he goes, "Well, you should know, I don't have air magic. Like, this wind vortex did not come from Darius."
Yeah.
And she's like, "What do you mean?"
All Tory.
"I saved us?" And he's like, "Yeah, you did." She's like, "I gotta figure out how to do that, like, on not panic and fear." And she's like, "Is Lionel going to be mad about these bikes?" And he's like, "No, I bought them with my own allowance. It's fine." So they clean up, and then they go back inside, and they end up getting out of there as he stardusts them back to Ignis. So they're back in that room, and he makes a comment about how he can't believe she almost beat him. And she's like, sorry, almost beat you? I won. And he was like, yeah, I was literally about to take back the lead, which just sounds
So juvenile.
like what an egotistical man who just lost something would say.
Yeah.
So then he like touches her, he dries her off. She loses all coherent thoughts as soon as he puts his hand on her. He feels magic and she's like, okay, I should go. And he's like, stay. And he wants her to sleep over because it feels right. And ultimately, she decides to go. She thinks he's like sabotaging her for the air trial, blah, blah, blah. They never figure out who won. But as she is setting her alarm for the morning, she sees a text on her atlas. By the way, it's like 2 a.m. at this point on a fucking Wednesday before a really important test. She gets a text from Darius saying, maybe we could call it a draw. Okay. Final chapter we're going over today. Orion. So Darcy is still at Orion's house. This is the same night. Both of these like girls are hanging out with men they shouldn't be hanging out with.
Late at night before a test.
And she ends up staying up literal hours. Like she was like originally like I'll just stay for 5 more minutes, and now it's been hours. It's 2 a.m. And as she's finally getting up, they hear a knock at the window. And Orion immediately knows there's only one person who would show up at this kind of time. Well, other than Blue, I guess. But it was Darius. So she ends up sneaking out the front, and he goes to get Darius after she leaves. Darius is wearing a bunch of gold chains and like stuff to help him refill his magic, which like looks ridiculous. Like he's got gold rings, he's chains, gold belt bucket. He looks ridiculous. And Darius grills him about why he had a silencing charm on his house, and also why it took him so long to answer the door, and also why he wasn't answering your texts. And Orion kind of panics, so like he jokes about not wanting Washer to hear him jerking off to sexy pics his Darius's mom sent him. Like they have this banter, right? And Darius is like, "Dude, was Francesca just here?" And Orion was like, "Oh, that would have been a way better line." I
so
totally could have just said that. So Darius ends up bringing him back something of his father's. It was like this carved emerald green dragon with gold eyes. It seems to be like a paperweight thing. And Orion totally forgot he went home. But like mid-sex with Darcy, he had felt like he'd gotten punched immediately. So like it was a really hard punch. And so Orion's like, oh shit, was Lionel there? Like, was your dad there? But we know that it was just the motorcycle accident. So Orion goes to get dressed and he checks his phone and he has a bunch of texts from Darius about him taking Roxy back home and that he was coming over. So he goes out and he's like, wait, you were with Tory? And Darius tells her everything. Xavier, the bike crash, and Orion sort of asks if he trusted her. And, and also Orion asks if they banged and he said no. So Orion's like, do you trust this girl? Especially because Xavier, like, she now knows he's a Pegasus. And Darius is like, I trust her. And he's like, yeah, but I don't know why. And Orion's like, yeah, I get that. But both of these guys obviously want to talk to each other about it. And it's like kind of an unsaid understanding. Like both of them are like, okay, we're both in a situation, but they ultimately don't talk about it. And instead they go down to the Wailing Wood together with that trinket, and they go to this hidden cave that they practice at. So they got out their draining dagger, the one that Orion has, but Darius doesn't, because apparently Tory has the draining dagger. And Darius takes it out to unlock the cave that is hidden. So, like, the cave, it doesn't look like a cave until you use the dagger, and then it, like, so that people can't find it.
Just like that place where Voldemort kept the locket Horcrux.
Exactly.
You had to do a little blood offering to get it.
Literally.
I'm just going to keep drawing parallels because I think it's fucking hilarious.
Oh my god, it is funny.
Every opportunity.
Yes.
I'll be here.
Yes. This is just a smuttier version of it. And just more ridiculous. Okay, so it's unlocked. They get into it. They cast a fire inside of it. And he takes out 4 elemental bones and puts the little dragon paperweight between them. And we do some serious witch shit. So the way that Orion describes this is he like cuts himself with the dagger and a thrill flickers in his veins. The call of dark magic always sets my blood pounding. And then the pain becomes pleasure as the whisper of the shadows gathered around him. He could feel the power of the blade wanting more blood, but he had to fight that off and pass the blade to Darius, who did the same. Then they clasped hands and the wounds met, and when the blood dripped down to the bones, they were dragged out of their bodies and plunged into the shadows. So it turns out like dark magic is kind of this like you inflict pain on yourself, but it becomes pleasure because you're using the dark magic and it becomes really addicting.
Yeah.
So this type of magic takes a lot of practice and training. It really feels like the best drug in the world, but the dark magic always wants more. Obviously dangerous. The pull would never go away. Also explains a lot about why they were worried about Milton cutting himself.
Yes.
And
yeah.
now we're concerned about Tory.
Also, oddly concerned about Milton. Like, I'm pretty sure Milton could drop dead tomorrow, and neither of those people would care one iota.
Not at all.
But they're like not with the dagger.
Yes.
Because that's a little incriminating.
It's incriminating, and they don't want the dagger to be out there for the FIB to investigate. Okay, so using this magic and the item from Lionel, they were able to locate him, and they found themselves at the court of Solaria. This is the parliamentary building for the Celestial Council. They are, like, invisible to anyone there. They're just, like, there and able to observe. So they found Lionel, and he went into an office, and he had a meeting with Stella Orion. And Darius and Orion are like, let's leave if this gets sexual.
Ew, I forgot about that.
I know. So here's what the conversation, they started talking. So Stella got a reading from the best astrologer in Solaria and said that the odds were firmly in their favor for the lunar eclipse, but they had to choose well as her daughter wasn't pure enough. So really the only thing that comes out of this conversation is Lionel suggests Xavier, because he's pure-blooded and he guarantees that his order has more to do with constellations at birth and not with anyone's blood. So Stella's like, I won't risk it unless I'm absolutely sure, but Xavier is an option. And so this freaks Darius out, obviously, and Orion assures him that they'll do everything that they can. And this brings us to 50% of the way through. We haven't even touched an elemental trial.
No, not even skimmed one. It's been 3 days.
The plot is barely visible.
Did we do any plot progression in that house?
The dagger showed up a couple times,
That's
but
true.
nothing actually happened with it.
Yeah, we just know more about the dagger.
And everybody ignored any curfew or rules to keep them safe. And nobody got hurt.
Yeah, we've had no nymph progress, no war progress, no throne progress.
The progress has been in the relationships of Tory and Darcy with the heirs, because the heirs are being nice to them.
Which I did say, they had to redeem themselves a lot, and in my opinion, it happens.
Okay. We're not quite there, but you can tell they're trying.
They're working towards it. There's 9 books.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to happen at some point.
Did it have to be half of this book?
Yeah.
Right? You had 9 more to play with.
Yeah.
I would just like to state for the record that I read, I think, 1 through 5 or 6 in a week. I didn't sleep that week.
To be fair, because I know I'm going slow with this, to be fair, my life is absolute chaos right now.
That's true. That's true.
But
so I think for me, it didn't feel like it was like really slow when I was reading it because I read them all so fast.
So fair.
Where I was like, yeah, like things are happening.
It doesn't necessarily feel slow because they're just putting so much into so few days that it's like it takes forever for us to get through a week.
Yes.
Like it was 300 pages for us to get through 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
Craziness.
Damn.
Yeah. They're just packing a lot, but they're also doing so many different
things,
like relationship and storylines that it is going slow.
Give them credit where credit is due. Managing characters is so difficult, and they do it well.
Yeah.
Like I know all of them.
Yep.
I understand their motives, that I'm supposed to at least understand at this point.
Yeah.
I think the only person who's not really fleshed out is Max, and I think that's on purpose.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten a POV yet.
Yeah. But otherwise, like, I know all of them pretty well at this point.
More well than I would have
chosen
to at the beginning of this journey.
You know, yeah, their kinks, their insecurities, their home lives, their weird, deep, dark secrets, um, their weird sexual tension amongst each other that has no lore yet, but will have some
I'm sure that
eventually.
it will. I don't doubt that they are going to fledge out all the things that I really could do without.
Yeah.
Yeah, great time. We will be back for part 3.2
Yep.
in a couple weeks. Thank you for being here.
Give us a like, subscribe, comment, give us your opinions. How are you liking the book?
Tell us what we missed in this,
Yeah.
because then I can bring it up in the next one. All right.
Exactly.
Have a great night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.